control the covered boundary. At last the time has come, this is a cricketing emergency. Hear this call to arms for every cricket revolutionary. Take up your bats and stumps for the test match insurgency. At first they tried to silence us, but we would not be silenced. They threatened us with lies, so we threatened them with violence. Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket. It's not about the winning, it's about how many rules you break. Even in cricket commentary, this is the best advice to take. Pick guerrilla cricket, it's the finest choice you'll ever make. There's so much more to cricket than rev counters and a slice of cake. At first they tried to sanitize us and clean up our act, but people like it filthy, and we know that for a fact. Fidel Castro, Lenny Pasco, Carlos the Jackal, Umar Akmal, Mahatma Gandhi, Grant and Andy, Brendan Behan, Austin Ian, guerrilla cricket. Stick with us, cause you know we're not the kind of thing that you see on the TV and the radio. So vive la revolution. First they tried to buy us, but we would not be bought. Okay, we were, but then we ran away, and we will not be caught. We would not give up the ghost when they left us all for dead. They decapitated us, but we just grew another head. Chairman Mao, Jamie Howe, Ho Chi Minh, Asif Din, Václav Havel, Graham Saville, No Surrender, Percy Fender, Che Guevara, Sangakkara, Joseph Stalin, Douglas Jardine, Robespierre, Darrell Hare, Vladimir Lenin, O'Brien Kevin, guerrilla cricket.
It's the final test of an extraordinary summer of cricket. It's the end of the line for Trevor Bayliss as England coach. It could be the end of the line in Test cricket for Jason Roy, named in an unchanged squad but then thrown out of the 11. Perhaps never to be seen again. Make sense of that if you can. We will try to over the next 7 hours. Good morning, good afternoon, good dawn, good dusk. Wherever you may be in this wonderful world of ours, welcome to Guerrilla Cricket. It's our final show or shows of the summer. The summer is coming to an end. I feel so depressed when the cricket season ends. Even though there's cricket all around the world, all over the winter, there's nothing
you're
like
pretty
an
depressed when
English
the cricket's on as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty depressed when the cricket's on. So can you imagine how low I get when the final ball is bowled of the summer? Of course, there's still county cricket. Who remembers county cricket? Does anyone remember county cricket?
I was watching some yesterday.
Oh, there you go. Jolly good. Anyway, I am Gorilla Hendo, sometimes known as Cat Sitting Hendo. Available if you need your cat sat at short notice, and I will stay at your house and do it if you like for lots of money.
Do you sit on the cats?
No, they sit on me, generally speaking. I am joined today by a man who's just been to Wormsley for the first time.
That's true, actually.
It's not Fred Titmus.
Hello, good morning to everybody, most of you anyway.
And did you like Wormsley?
It was very impressive.
Were you sucking up to the establishment?
No, not really. I wasn't.
You were sort of,
they were sucking up to him.
Oh, they sucked up
well,
to you.
that's true. You've got to know your place in these kind of situations. But let's talk about today's match.
We will do. But first, we should introduce on my left. He's fought his way in on the central line. He's overcome signal failures at every stop. It's Nestle Boy.
Oh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. welcome to the final test of the Ashes.
Are you as sad as I am about it being the final test?
It's kind of like, it does feel like the end of things, doesn't it?
It does, and it's
the end of times.
The end of times. Well, it feels like that in this country for many reasons, but we won't go into that for now. I shall bring you team news, and the team news is that England have 2 changes and Australia have 2 changes. Unfortunately, the 2 changes from Australia are not that Smith and Labuschagne are no longer playing. It's that Travis Head and Mitchell Starc brought in for 1 test and then cruelly thrown on the bonfire. He's gone. Peter Siddle comes back, and Mitchell Marsh. Where has Mitchell Marsh been? Well, apparently he's been fat. Did you read this? He's been fat.
I hadn't, no.
He's been fat, and they had to tell him to get some weight off, basically. He's going to come in and bowl 25 overs a day. You can't be carrying anything.
If he does do that, England will be in a good position, I'll tell you that much, because he's very much their 5th bowler, which they haven't had throughout the series.
Yeah, well, that takes some of the load off some of their quick bowlers, so that's another reason for the changes.
We'd better get...
we better have. They're out there already, would you believe?
We'd better get Denley's jingle in quick.
Go on.
Nada.
Nothing's happening. Here we go.
Joe Denley, he's almost as old as this theme song, but Chef is gone and we need someone to bat at the top of the order. Joe Denley, he's also a part-time bowler. He can do leg spin, but he's no Ravi Ashwin. He'll need help from the heavy roller. Joe Denley, Joe Denley.
And the bowler is this chap.
Paceman Pat,
Need a new
Paceman
jingle.
Paceman Pat and his baggy green
Keep
cap.
saying this. Come on.
Early in the morning, just before the warm-up, he has to pull out with
The
a dodgy back.
No, he doesn't. 24 wickets in the series, if not more. It may be more than that now. And he goes past Rory Burns outside edge. Rory Burns, of course, back at home, as it were, his county of Surrey. And he wanders down the wicket to have a little prod.
TV umpire wants to know if we've seen the last of Jason Roy in the Test squad.
Well, that was my question before we started.
Have we? Mizzy Jones is with us. Hi, Mezza. Australia wins toss and fields. Interestingly, Steve Smith's average is 78.39 when Australia win the toss, and only 52.21 when they lose. And when Australia win the toss and field, his average is 93.25. Be afraid, England. Be very afraid.
Fabulous stats. Now, let's have a look. This pitch is slightly off to the left, isn't it, as you look from the pavilion. This is allowed to pass through, good to carry at 87 miles an hour.
That's never a good thing. Let's hear the jingle for the other opening batsman.
There is a man. A certain man. A man whose grace and handsome face are known across the land. You know his name. It's Mr. Burns. He loves a smoke. Enjoys a joke. Why, he's worth 10 times what he earns.
He's Mr. Burns.
I'm Mr. Burns. He's Monty Burns.
Mr. Burns.
To friends he's known as Monty, but to you it's Mr. Burns.
Cummins with 3 slips in the gully goes past Burns, who's really on the walk there. That was not an impressive shot at all. He's also got a short leg in there. And as someone may have just said on the tweets, Australia won the toss and put England into bat. Joe Root said he would have batted, so no problem with that. There is talk that there's a little bit of grass, a little bit of greenery, a bit of shrubbery on this oval wicket. It does look quite green. And we were talking, well, I say we were talking, Mike Atherton was talking about how it used to be a really white, flat track at the oval. It's no longer like that. It's more like the soil colour now. And it was, back in the 70s and 80s, it was a glorious batting wicket. It was unbelievable. How good it was to bat on. In comes Cummins again, bowls to Burns, and Burns plays this one down to the fairly fine gully on the bounce, and there is no run. You're about to say something, Fred. I can see you chomping at the mic.
I have nothing to say.
You have nothing to say.
Let's talk about England's selection.
Yes,
how long have we got?
Well, my first thought was unchanged side. Well, they've only got 3 days between tests. I can understand that to some extent, but it seemed remarkable that they were missing out on a chance, having lost the Ashes, not to blood 1 or 2 new players. Not even new necessarily.
I'm going to suggest that Ed Smith, who is the selector, he's basically the only selector, played 3 test matches for England.
Yep, in comes Cummins again, bowls to Burns. Burns plays this one, a straight at one, in front of the man at short leg. It runs towards mid-wicket, and there is no run.
And presumably, in the manner of all sportsmen worldwide, believe they were hard done by for only having played 3 test matches. And he is determined to not make that so-called mistake. I mean, perhaps the mistake with Ed Smith was picking him in the first place, and he's made similar mistakes with a number of these players in this series, and that has coloured his thinking very much as regards selection for the last 2 Test matches, which has been incomprehensible, frankly.
We'll come back to that. Final ball of the over. Cummins into Burns, and Burns leaves this one outside the off stump, just swings back a little bit after it's gone past the batsman. And that is the end of the over. It's a maiden. England yet to score, Australia yet to take a wicket. I think that's a fabulous theory, Fred,
Thank
and
you.
I've not heard anyone say that before. Is that your own theory?
It
Or
was
have you
one
heard
I
it somewhere
developed
else?
with somebody yesterday.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yes.
Who?
I'm not prepared to say.
Okay, fair enough.
He works for an alternative organisation.
Oh.
He shall remain nameless.
Oh, I
somehow.
see. Was it Atif Nawaz?
No.
Was it Kevin Hand?
No.
I can't remember.
Was
who
it
else.
Sir Geoffrey Boycott?
Was that bloke from Durham?
No, it wasn't.
Okay. Was it Tony Bishop?
No,
No.
certainly wasn't.
Okay. Over to
Have
Nestle
you
Boy
finished?
on the tweets.
Messi Jesu's changed his handle to Messi Jez Gorilla Lover.
Ooh, steady
Relieved
on.
to see Australia maintaining the Mitch and Marsh quota all in one man,
Absolutely.
which we like to hear. Must not send tweet. Simar says, I'm liking this theme music. Never been awake early enough, 6 a.m. here, to hear it before.
It's the first time for everything. Joe Denley's going to face up to Josh Hazlewood, who will jingle up in a moment. First ball, he comes forward to and plays off a thick inside edge to the man at short leg. He's quite deep at short leg. He's probably 7 or 8 metres back. And this is Josh's jingle.
This is a jingle for Josh Hazlewood. This is a jingle for Josh Hazlewood.
Does what it says on the tin.
So if you reckon if there was a selector who'd played 100 Test matches,
Well, he'd probably be less likely to.
he would just get rid of someone after
he
one
would.
Test.
He
Yeah,
would. More
Yeah.
likely to.
Denley waits. 3 slips go down. Oh, and again! How many times have we seen this in this series? He tries to leave the ball, but doesn't actually get the bat out of the way properly, and so it hits the underside of the bat, and so easily could crash into the stumps. As it is, it runs to the wicketkeeper. But
Yeah, then he can't even miss the ball properly.
yes, that's well. In fact, he's gloved that one as he tried to leave it.
Kiwi Callie's with us.
Hello.
Kia ora, she
Kia ora.
says, which the New Zealand
Yes, Air New
Airlines
Zealand.
are trying to
Shocking.
trademark it,
Ah.
which is a Maori for hello. Ridiculous. Will not be with you for long as it's a school night.
Ah.
Former Victorian me is pleased to see Siddle back in the side.
Oh, right, okay.
And Leah's with us.
Lovely jingle that is.
Good morning, Gorillas. I'll break off.
Hazlewood in again to Denley. Denley jabs this away from his ribs. He'll get a run as it's only half stopped by Matthew Wade at short leg and runs towards mid wicket where there is nobody. So Denley is off the mark. England are underway. They are 1 for none.
Leah says, morning, Gorillas. Can Tiny Tim become the first Australian captain to win an Ashes in Old Blighty since Steve Waugh? Well, it's possible.
I like Tiny Tim. He's not that tiny, but he is called Tim.
Messi Jez Gorilla Lover says, evening all. After about the 4th tweet. Delighted to see you again. Sad the season is almost done. Poor choice by Australia to field, in my humble opinion. he
Well, it's
says.
quite cloudy as well as there being a bit of greenery on the pitch.
And it's quite humid here in London.
Yes, it's warm enough.
It's not
isn't it?
cold.
You don't
Roger
need a
Millie.
jacket.
Good morning and bollocks.
Oh no, come
In
on.
this case, bollocks refers to Mitchell Marsh. Very sporting of them to play him in place of someone who could either bowl or bat.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
I don't think they have.
Burns to face Hazlewood for the first time. Jerking about in his low stance. This is left alone outside off stump through low to Tim Payne.
Messi Jez says, rotten bowling from Cummins, seeming it far too much for Burns to get close to. Senor Brain Damage is with us. He says,
Hello.
Folkes needs to come back into the side. There's a lot of people who think that, Senor. Martin's, Durban Oak, Woi Woi Pom. Guess what he says?
He says, we're doomed!
Indeed.
We're doomed.
Mog's with us. Good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is there, Mog. You know Australia's just mocking you now. Mitch fucking Marsh.
Yeah. And when there was talk that they were going to leave out Hazlewood or Cummins, I thought, now that's just not fair. This one ends up wrapping Burns around the thigh pad, or even higher than that, up into the ribs perhaps. So it runs down in front of him. There is no run.
Umpire Bell says, on YouTube, you've still got the title Men's Ashes 2019 England vs Australia 4th Test Old Trafford, Day 5 on your current live stream. Hashtag just saying.
The person responsible will be decapitated.
Talking of YouTube, we've got some people. Jan Brand says, giddy up, Ravers.
Giddy up, eh?
William Boeing says good morning, England. And Abby Singh says good afternoon, India.
Good afternoon, India.
Hello, guys. Says
Have
Wajah
you the results
Hussain.
of the Indian jury? Here comes Burns and times this nicely on the offside, just leans into the shot, doesn't try to overplay it, and the ball runs out square on the offside for the first boundary of the test. Well, whatever you think about Burns' technique, he's been one of the more solid England batsmen of this series.
If this series has taught us anything, it's that technique is overrated.
Yes, indeed. Or finding your own technique is the best way to go, in many respects.
Not wrong with unorthodoxy.
Seemingly not. Seemingly
Except
not.
in umpiring.
Where is Joel Wilson? Bring back Joel Wilson. Where is he when you need him?
Well, I have to say, he has provided with some of the most entertaining moments of this test
Well,
series.
it's been a fabulously entertaining summer. I mean, I remember thinking at
great.
the beginning of the summer, oh, we've got all this glorious cricket in front of us, all this World Cup ashes. I was just overflowing with excitement. Outside the off stump to Denley, left alone.
I've never seen you overflow with excitement.
No, well, I
Probably
do
just
it
as well.
I do it very quietly in the privacy of my own bedroom. And now we're nearly at the end of that. We've had all the excitement pretty much. And what is there to look forward to apart from winter?
And 3 England tours.
Yeah, but one's in the
Incomprehensible
middle of
3 England tours.
One's in the middle of the night.
One's at a very good time of day.
There's only one that's
South
a good
Africa.
South Africa, but
And
that's not
that's-
until after Christmas.
That's a lot of test matches.
It's 4 test matches, isn't it?
Yeah, and some one-dayers. So there's a lot to enjoy on Guerrilla Cricket this winter, all being well.
All being well, but will all be well? That is the question. Cummins bowls to Denley, comes forward and plays to short leg. And there is no run. I should say the GPL is open. And if you remember, on Sunday, we had a winner!
Oh.
Finally! We had a winner, Messi Jez.
Over 100 quid or something.
Messi Jez won 151 wonderful sterling pounds, which is worth about $33, isn't it? Something like that.
Bastard.
And it's about €8, so it's not worth that much to him. So he might as well give it all to us back. Anyway, so what's in the GPL today? I wonder. And,
Tuppence, 8.
probably about £3. Cummins. We're going to find out in a minute. Cummins
30.
into Denley. It's a full ball, and that's a beautiful shot, and it's a beautiful piece of fielding also at mid-off, and Denley will feel upset that he didn't get a past Mitchell Marsh, who announces himself to this particular test match. Lovely stroke. Deserved it, because it was a full half volley, but brilliantly fielded. £30, is that right, in the GPL to start with? And to take part in the GPL, you go to guerrillacricket.com, competitions, go to competitions, register if you haven't already done so. If you have registered, that's fine. Each time you want to estimate how many runs will be scored in the day, you pay us £1, and you can have as many goes as you want, and of course the more of you take part, the more money goes in the pot. Outside the off stump, left alone again by Denley. But of course, remember
November.
that you only get the prize fund if you get it on the nose. It's not like a nearest person wins, it's you have to get it on the nose.
It's tough.
And you have until lunch to do this. So you don't have to decide right now. You can get to about 1:45 and see that England are 27 for 5, and then work out that really you probably shouldn't go higher than about 300, because Australia will get in and score 200 in a session. In comes Cummins, bowls full, and nicely played by Denley. He moved with good balance into that and just let the ball run off the face of the bat. Didn't try to drive through the line, and it runs away towards third man for a couple. He goes to 3, and England go to 7 for no wickets.
Spangly Sai says, "What-o, chaps?
What-o?
In my glamorous Maidenhead head office today, and have been all week. I'm looking forward to the cricket alleviating the soul-crushing drudgery of this place." Dear, oh dear. Dave Sarah says, "Morning, Gorillas. What happened to Ed Smith versus South Africa in 2003? Did he technically not look the part? Also, great Kiwi Cali jingle. Where do I get mine? We'll tell you. Also, thanks for the great coverage over this ridiculous, incredible summer."
Well, again, Denley's a bit unlucky. He plays a lovely straight drive, which somehow Cummins sticks out a foot and sort of drags underneath him, as if it was a sort of lorry taking a body along the ground after running into them, which is a horrible idea, I suppose. But brilliantly done. It was his back leg, it was his left leg that
He's auditioning for Strictly Come Dancing, I think.
or River Dance.
Perhaps.
Yeah, it was very clever. Anyway, That is the end of the over, and England are 7 for no wickets.
He's called Patrick. There could be some Irish blood in there somewhere.
Absolutely. Good point. Good point.
Mog says you can't call that collection of tics, spasms and twitches that Smith uses a technique, but fuck me if it doesn't work.
Well, it does. This is the thing. It does.
I reserve the right not to do that.
Oh, what about? Well, we should talk about not just about the fact that you can't make sense of what Ed Smith is doing. Well, in fact, you have made sense.
Well, I've given perhaps
A reason.
An idea.
It may only be in his subconscious as well. He may not be actually fully aware of it. This is defended by Burns as Hazelwood starts his second over. What do you think about Craig Overton being dropped after one game? I mean, he batted really well, and people will say, well, he's not in there for his batting, but he kind of is a little bit. He's in at number 8, isn't he? And he was taking the place of Wokes.
I thought he was lucky to play in the last game. He bowled not particularly well. He bowled his couple of his wicket-taking deliveries were
beautiful.
excellent.
Absolutely.
Which shows that there is something there.
Yeah.
But I think he was there because other people weren't.
Onto the front foot comes Burns and plays this square into the covers.
And I'm not particularly... of all the things that I have to take issue with England's selection,
That's not one.
leaving Overton out of this game is not high on the list. It might be sort of in the top 15.
But a curious thing happened this week, and I was amazed about talking of
Sounds like
the
a Ronnie
Overton.
Corbett anecdote.
I was at the BBC bar.
Overton, Jamie Overton got his Somerset cap. I mean, he's been there for years. How's he only
Right,
just got
they've
his
forgotten.
cap? They just forgot. Oh, we
Yeah.
ran out. We ran out.
We thought we
Annie.
gave it to you, but it was the other bloke.
It's a bit like us in the t-shirt sometimes.
Yeah. Full. Oh, he's found the edge there, or has he found
Pad, I think.
high up on the leg?
Oh,
he's
he's
given him out!
What?
LBW! Well,
Really?
surely that's high.
He's reviewed it
I'm
straight
sure
away.
it was pad.
Well, I thought it was leg above the pad, so that suggests it's pretty high.
Don't think the Australians look that confident about it, do they?
It was a very
I
late decision.
was in, I was definitely in. Were you definitely in? I don't know.
Well, Burns looked as if it was just a minor inconvenience that he was given out there. It's hit the back pad. It's hit the
It's hit
back
the back
leg.
thigh.
The thigh pad.
Yeah, I mean it's going up. He's going to be unlucky if that's clipping. He's going to be.
We can't see how far back he is in his crease from the front-on shot. Perhaps a side-on view would be more useful. But it's all going to depend on
It's too high,
the ball
surely.
tracking. I don't think there was any bat or glove involved.
No, there wasn't.
there weren't.
Definitely not.
Here
Although
we go.
now we're looking at ultra edge.
For
and we're gonna
half
find
an
there
hour
is-
now, we're going to go and look at.
Well, the back leg is on the batting crease.
It looks high.
I would say it's high, but if it could just be clipping.
How tall is Rory Burns? It's a good
Not
time to
tall.
find out.
He's about 5'8", isn't he? He's quite small. It's pitching in
Oh,
line. It's impact in line, and it's missing.
Hey,
And it's missing by 1 inch and a half.
Yeah.
So that's not out. That was a poor decision from Maris.
And the umpires are back.
Yes, they're back in.
good point here by Ravi Nair. Says, hi all, amidst all the gloom, I'd like to congratulate England on their achievement in over 120 years that they are only one of 2 teams to have reached the Ashes finals.
Yes, brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've done very well. I mean, for years and years, people have been trying to get into the Ashes final.
Hey!
And it's Ed Benson. He's looking.
Benson.
He's looking well, isn't he?
He's looking very
he's
well.
looking.
He's looking thin, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't know if it's well.
Do you think is he wasting away?
He is wasting away.
Ah, that's what it is.
It's called healthy.
Uh,
Remember that, Hender?
no,
Okay.
no, it's a long time since I felt healthy.
Adrian Lowe says, hello chimps, watching you on Facebook Live. Thanks for everything you've done this summer. Once you've gone gorilla, you can't go back.
We do like to say that. Onto the back foot goes Burns, who's been reprieved. And he really didn't look like he thought he was out. He just thought, oh, what? It was sort of, obviously I'm going to review that. He just looked slightly perturbed that the umpire would have given that
He looked
decision.
annoyed, didn't he?
Yeah,
I've got to
yeah.
go
Well,
through this
he
bloody
knew
review
where it
thing
hit
now.
him,
Yeah.
and I think he had every confidence that it was going over the top.
Adelaide Barmies are with us. Good morning, Adelaide. Morning, everyone. See off these 2 and then we can feast on Mitch Marsh.
In comes Hazelwood again, bowls to Burns. This one is climbing up towards his sternum. And he defends it down into the ground. There is no run.
In that instance, of course, Australia don't lose a review or England don't
No.
lose a review, but I think the umpire should lose something.
His match
he
fee?
can. Yeah, he
Erasmus,
loses
a few
He
pounds,
loses the opportunity to go upstairs for a run out or something. There should be some penalty.
Yeah, there should. I think you're right there. That's a very, very good point. That's 2 good points you've made today.
2 good
Brent.
points in 20
How
minutes.
is that?
Stop
How
it.
can
It's a
that
record.
be? I find that hard to believe, but it's true.
He's hit his quota for the day, though.
Yeah, I think so. Hazelwood in to Burns. Burns leaves this one angled across him. outside the off stump. And that is the end of Hazelwood's over. It was a maiden. It had a little bit of controversy, and England remains 7 for no wicket.
Does the umpire panel, or whatever it's called, sort of sit down after matches and review how many decisions they've got wrong?
Yes.
You would hope so, wouldn't you?
It probably does go against them a
They
little bit.
are constantly monitored, in the same way as football referees who have assessors in the stands watching them and going through decisions that they've made after the event. And quite rightly so. That's how you find out who the best umpires are.
Well, it should be, although I never trust the assessors in football refereeing. I mean, I think they're
because
biased
you're
towards
looking
the
at it
referees.
with a one eye.
They're all
aren't you?
Well, no, not really.
They're all against Wimbledon.
No, not at all. And when I'm watching, I don't like seeing bad decisions, whether they're against my team or just in general. I just hate bad refereeing.
Yeah, but VAR sorted that all out.
Oh,
hasn't
yeah,
it?
yeah, absolutely.
Hasn't
Yes.
it just?
Mog says once you go gorilla, nothing else is going to thrill you.
Oh, I like it. I like it. Thriller. Nothing like a thriller. Thriller. Cummins in to start his third over. Bowling to Denley, 3 slips. Oh, and that's gone right through him. Has he got an edge on that? They think so. But umpire Dharmasena says no. Payne and
Well, that doesn't
Cummins
mean
were
much.
convinced. No, it was a sprightly delivery. It really
This is-
fizzed again.
This is embarrassing for Payne. He's gone up, he's danced in the air going, how's that? And then he's the one who has to make the decision whether they're going to review, and he goes, no.
I know, but they do this all the time, and it is kind of annoying, isn't it?
Well, it's
It's
one
not
thing
just-
if
it's not
it's
just
the bowler who appeals and then the captain has to make a decision. But here it's the captain wicketkeeper who's appealed, and then he has to say, no, actually my appeal was bollocks.
Well, what was it during the last test? I think it
Hit
was
his leg. That's
yes,
what.
his
That's
leg.
what.
It's
That's
come
what
back
confused
in.
him.
But
Isn't
it could have been an inside edge, I suppose. Who was it on Sunday where he did much the same thing? And as it was to Nathan Lyon, I think, was bowling. Cummins in again, and again Denley tries to leave and doesn't get his bat out of the way. However, he has deflected it from the underside of his bat all the way down to third man. Although Labuschagne thinks he may have got there and just about hauled it in.
He did as well.
We'll have a look at this again. He's obviously running back, chewing and blowing bubbles as he tends to do.
I think I got attacked by a wasp.
It's
there
an
on the way back.
amazing dive, actually. He's gone a long way.
No.
Oh no, that is
hang on.
Fingertips.
amazingly tight. That really is. That's about as tight as he can be.
4.
But immediately the umpire is certain about that and says it's 4. I think if Denley stops trying to play at every ball, he'll get 100 here.
Yeah. I'm tempted to say that the only way that Denley scores any runs is when he's trying to leave the ball. But some of his innings, the longer he's gone on, the worse he's looked. It's almost incredible how bad he's been.
I don't think he's been that bad. I think I like Denley. He plays lovely cover drives, and unfortunately often to the player that's in the field, fielding position. But he looks, he's you have to understand that these are top class bowlers.
Absolutely, he just doesn't look like a Test player, and he hasn't after 2 Test matches.
I
The
think
first innings of the last Test match, he was in. I don't know. He made probably about 10 or something like that, and he must have been beaten about 20 times by the ball. It was embarrassing to watch.
I've seen players in the past who played for England do that. He's played at this one and missed. It's come back in between bat and pad, flown over the top of the stumps.
If it was a
taken by
boxing
Payne.
match, it would have been stopped much earlier. If he was a wounded pet, he would have been put out of his misery.
Yeah, but I kind of admire him for his stickability. He's really.
Well, he's not supposed to
tried
walk off
everything.
and say, "Actually, I've had enough of this." I mean, what do you want him to do?
Well, no. What I mean is,
I'm crap. I'm going.
He's been up and down the order as well. He's just done what. Well, he was opening the batting in Sri Lanka. Was it in the West Indies and Sri Lanka? And then he was dropped down
He
again.
was taken to Sri Lanka because they thought his leg spin bowling could be useful
Well, you
as a
might-
third spinner, and all of a sudden he's Mr. Man in possession.
Well, there you go.
You
It
just
says
like
something
him,
about
don't you,
what we've. I think he's battled well, to be honest. He ducks under this one from Cummins. But I was going to go back to this thing about Tim Payne and his appealing.
It's not that appealing.
And it was Nathan Lyon. There was a catch taken by Matthew Wade I say a catch. It was a catch in inverted commas, taken at short leg, and they all went up and they leapt, and Tim Payne was running up the pitch from behind the stumps, and you could see he turned to Wade as he did it, saying, "Was it?" And then and that said it all really, that they would have that enormous appeal, and then he didn't know for sure. And I just don't like it. I'm sorry.
Well,
I mean, people say you
you'd
appeal
be
for
embarrassed to do that, wouldn't you?
I
if you
would
were in
be.
the field?
Full on the legs of Denley. Sort of cast his eyes to heaven. as no doubt Fred has been doing with him this summer, as he tried to clip that away but made no contact. Onto the pad it went, and there was no run. 11 for no wickets.
And they found bizarre excuses for keeping him in. Oh, he was run out, but it was probably Joe Root's fault. He gets given another.
Well, it was
test
Joe
match.
Root's
Oh,
fault.
he took a good catch at the end of the game. Oh, yeah, we lost the game, but that was a great catch. Let's
No,
keep him in.
no,
Oh,
let this right, Fred.
let's try and put Roy in at number 4. So what are we going to do? Oh, Denley will stay in, and he'll open.
Let's get this right, Fred. He took a catch at the end of a game that we got close to winning.
Yes, that's
actually.
true. That's true. No, it was. England had a chance to win
Don't
that game.
rewrite
That's
history.
true. But I mean, they found bizarre excuses. Wanting to put Roy at 4 does not mean that Denley should open.
Well, no, I agree with you. But I mean, if you're going to play him, you're probably going to put in that position.
I'm not
But he has been picked. Whether you would play him or not is another matter. 3 slips of gully, forward short leg. In comes Hazelwood to start a new over, coming from the Vauxhall end, and it's defended on the back foot by Burns into the covers, and there is no run.
One of our tweeters earlier asked how he or she could have a jingle made in their honour, and I think we were going to tell them.
Well, you just have to be generous, as Kiwi Callie said.
Well, Kiwi Callie
And
paid us a princely sum
yes,
of money, which we haven't actually been advertising. It was a while ago now, so we haven't really been putting it out there. I mean, what we have been offering is a jingle as part of the Gorilla experience, which hasn't gone down that well.
well, we had a few people turn up.
Hazelwood in again, bowls a bouncer down the leg side, and Burns does well. At first he was trying to flick it away, and then I think he thought, I'll try and get my bat out of the way of this. I don't want to glove it behind.
Wasn't far from his gloves.
No, it wasn't. I think he did quite well in the end. So you can pay us, a couple of £100 if you want.
For a jingle.
For a jingle, that's what we were charging at the time, yeah.
Unusual for Erasmus to get it wrong like that, says Missy Jez. He was our last best hope for umpires.
He was, but he did make a couple of poor decisions towards the end of that game on Sunday. I think
he's being dragged down by the rest of his team.
Yes. Well, if you have to stay out there long enough, you will start making bad decisions. Hazelwood full, swinging in this time to Burns. And Burns meets it nicely, swung nicely onto the bat. In fact, he didn't really overhit it, but that is going to beat. I think it's Peter Siddle chasing after that at mid-on, all the way down to the OCS stand. 4-4.
4-4. Leia doesn't trust the ICC oversight of umpires. According to them, Buckner was the best international umpire for several years running. They also allowed Random Rudy to stand in more than one test.
Random Rudy. There, but he did. I mean, the thing about Random Rudy is he had that wonderful slow death, didn't he? That was terror for any batsman. Now what's happened there? That was full, and he played it. It got a thick inside edge. It's run down to long leg in front of the pavilion, and they take 1-16 for no wicket. Burns goes to 9. Denley has 7.
Evil Scooters is with us. Morning all.
Hello,
thoroughly
Scoots.
pleased to see a Rashid Khan, Ashgar Afghan and Ramit Shah led Afghanistan beat Bangladesh, despite the best efforts of the weather. Mitch Marsh. Oh dear. Well,
Well, I mean, it was great to see Afghanistan do well. I mean, I don't really necessarily want to see them doing well at the expense of Bangladesh, because they're still a nation that needs encouragement in a way. Well done to them. Fantastic. And now that's driven in the air. Well, he was a little bit loose there, Denley. It flew away, roundabout through gully, but not to anyone's hands, and it's run for 4 runs.
It's Nissan She. It's Nissan She.
We need a jingle for a 4 that's shit.
Well, Mike Keevy says brilliant leave for 4 there by Denley.
First he tried to leave, he was petrified.
Surely if you want good looking driving, says Ian Shaw, then you might as well go for Vince.
Well, that's true. Didn't he get 90 in no time yesterday?
He did, yeah, 58 balls.
That was strange, wasn't it? What a weird game that's been. Both getting about 160, and then suddenly Hampshire going a bit crazy in their second innings.
The Bish is with us.
Hello, the Bish. Is he at the Oval?
Yep.
Hazelwood in, bowls to Denley, leaves this one and leaves it really on length, because that comes back quite sharply, but it's well over the top of the stumps.
Disappointed to get no runs from a leave.
Indeed.
Tony Bishop.
What has the Bish Bash boss got
Well,
to
he
say?
sent us a picture of the game, and he says Josh Hazelwood steaming in from our seats. Well, not actually from our seats.
Oh, that would be fun.
He doesn't have TRJ's run up.
Oh right, yes, TRJ indeed. Is that still going on, that game at Lords? It is, isn't it?
Just about, yeah.
Yep, that's going on. So there's plenty of cricket in London today if you're in the vicinity. I'm not sure you get into the Oval. I suspect it's a sellout. But
I would have thought so. I think it did sell out after the Ben Stokes test.
Right. Oh, yes, someone said to me they'd got tickets for the 5th day. Was it John Stone? It might have been John Stone. Anyway, England have moved on to 20 for no wicket from the first 6 overs of the morning. Australia won the toss, put England into bat. The cloud is just dispersing a little. It's getting a bit brighter.
Mog wants to know, seriously, who does Folks have to fuck to get in the side?
Well, it does seem
Ed
odd. I mean,
Smith.
you now wonder what they're going to do about New Zealand, because surely they've got to give the likes of Sibley and or Crawley a go. I mean, I've not seen Crawley bat, so I've no idea how good he is. Have you seen him bat?
No.
Cummins bowls, ball just nibbles away from Burns, who gets his bat well up and out of the way of that one.
Not that I recall. I mean, this New Zealand tour is strange for a number of reasons. I am certainly not of the persuasion that believes that they play too much cricket, but as it happens, they really could have done with a couple of months off after this incredible winter and summer that they've had.
Well, they do
with
get
a
a
high
bit
pressure summer that they've had, and they're going pretty much straight to New Zealand to play 2 test matches and some white ball stuff at a time of the year when New Zealand is not renowned for great weather.
It's November.
Yeah.
So where are we? September. So they've got a couple of months. They have got about 6 weeks off, I think. This beats Burns. Cummins finding that little bit of fizz again from the pitch, and it flies through to Payne.
And furthermore, it's not part of the World Test Championship, again, for some unknown reason. They're playing a 2-test series, which doesn't count. And I think they are probably going to be dropping a couple of the regular players, or whoever is considered a regular player in the test match arena at the moment. So it's a bit of an odd tour, and I think we might see some funky selections. But again, there have been some terrible funky selections in the last few years. You're thinking of Duckett and Ansari and Batty on that ridiculous tour a couple of years ago.
Cummins in again. This is more on the line of leg stump, and Burns just goes up into his toes and dabs it down into the onside.
And with New Zealand being as close to English conditions as you're going to get anywhere else in the world, if Jimmy Anderson is going to continue to play Test cricket, I think he says he is. He's worth taking to New Zealand, because he should enjoy it.
Well, he wants to go. He wants to go.
If he's fit, yeah.
He was saying the other day he wants to go, definitely. So I think he'll go. I mean, the question is, I suppose, about Root, isn't it? I mean, Root will want to go. I mean, there's all this talk about the fact that he's the international cricketer who's played the most cricket in terms of days over the last year. Cummins in again, short. Burns crouches underneath that one.
I was reading some article, some comment yesterday, I think it was, about him being absolutely knackered.
Well, he said he's tired. And I think someone...
By the third headline, that turned into, I'm absolutely knackered.
Yeah.
I'm on a drip every night.
But I think, actually, someone made a good point. I'm not sure. It may have been Andy Bull in The Guardian was saying that, yes, his technique looks tired at the moment, and I think that's absolutely true. We're going to have a change at the end of this over. We're joined by... Well, we're going from fat gorillas to thin gorillas, slimline gorillas. We've got Andy Ward, who is the slimmest over 50 man I've ever seen in my life.
Well, he doesn't eat food.
That will help. Outside the off stump, left alone, Ed is here. He's come here to shout. Have you lost weight? You've lost weight, haven't you? Cocaine, yeah, that's always good. And a Knackle will be here with you.
Fat
as well.
Knackle.
He's huge. He's massive. And we've got one ball to go before we have a change. We're probably a little bit behind on tweets because we've been neglecting them for a little while. Or maybe people haven't been tweeting in, even. Okay. Oh, okay. So, final ball of Cummins' 4th over. England are 20 for no wicket. Burns 9. Denley 11. Most successful shot of the morning. Shot of the morning has been the leave for 4 from Denley. In comes Cummins. Bowls to Burns down the leg side, and he flicks that on its way. Nicely played, in fact. And it flies down to fine leg for one of these. 24 for no wicket. We'll have a change and we'll play you some information while we're doing that.
Yep, you owe us all right. You think this alternative cricket commentary stuff comes cheap? Well, we need some dollar bills to help pay our bills, so please go to patreon.com/GorillaCricket and sign up to make a regular monthly donation. You know there's literally nothing like Gorilla Cricket's coverage, so don't be tight. Dip into your virtual pocket and throw some cash our way. See, Rihanna knows. Patreon.com/GorillaCricket.
A
change at the Vauxhall end as you join us for Guerrilla Cricket's coverage of Day 5 of the 2019's Men's Ashes. You join us half an hour into the first session of Day 1. Australia won the toss and put England into bat. England are 24 for no loss after 7 overs and bowling the 8th. He's in right arm over the wicket, back of a length, and more bounce and movement off the seam. Denley plays this uncomfortably down to short leg. There is no run. The ever-reliable Peter Siddle, who's been bowling the same spell for his entire career, but yet again comes in English conditions, yet again comes in for the Oval, took a 6 for here on Australia's last Ashes tour. This one's fuller down the leg side. Denley tries to turn this off his toes, but good work from the man diving to his right at short leg means that there is no run. It's Matthew Wade chirping under the lid. I'm Nakalem Pandey taking you through the next half an hour on Ball by Ball. I'm joined, as the guys said before, to my left, reading your tweets and Facebook comments and YouTube comments by Andy Ward.
Good morning.
And to my right, making a welcome return to the Guerrilla Cricket firmament, Ed Benson. Welcome back, mate.
Morning, everyone.
3 slips and a gully await as Peter Siddle comes in right arm over the wicket past Marais Erasmus, short outside off stump. Denley thought about crashing that to the point boundary, but left it alone. Rising through to Tim Payne, there is no run. A bit of tennis ball bounce, but bounce nonetheless, and significant seam movement. Neither Burns nor Denley have looked comfortable.
No, they haven't, but I wonder if Australia are getting a little bit carried away with this bounce and bowling a little bit too far back of a length. And really they should. I think they'd be better off pitching it up a bit more and going for that lateral movement.
Yeah, we saw the 2 Pat Cummins Jaffers that nicked back in and had
both
Joe
went
Denley
over the stumps.
Exactly, that's what I was about to say. So suggest they're perhaps half a foot too short.
Peter Siddle in. 4th ball of the over. That is a little bit fuller, but easy for Denley to leave on low with both line and length. Through to the keeper it goes. There is no run. England are scoring at a decent rate here. They're scoring at 3.2 and over, but as I say, almost nothing has come out of the middle of the bat. You look on Cricinfo, Rory Burns has a control percentage of 76%, which is on the low side of fine, and Joe Denley's at 60%, which is much worse than that. But they are still there and still scoring.
Are you suggesting that those leaves that actually hit the bat are not fully controlled?
Well, quite. 3 slips in the gully and a backward point. I'll try and give you the rest of the field when I can. This one slightly squares Denley up, but he does get back to ball and blocks into the offside. Siddle fields in his run-up. There is no run. Australia have gone back to the method that has served them so well this series in terms of their fast bowlers and control being the primary factor at play, leaving out Mitchell Stark. Perhaps thinking that the pitch would move a little bit and that Peter Siddle's accuracy would mean he can get something out of the pitch. If you do have the 3 slips and a gully, a backward point, a mid-off, mid-on, short leg, and probably someone back as well. Siddle in, short outside off stump, and Denley does manage to cut this away in front of squares. A little bit early on the shot, and Mitch Marsh, who has a long chase from mid-off, falls over as he chases, but does manage to pick the ball up somewhat cleanly. They come through for 2 runs, and must have come through for 3 there. Surely that ball was...
Yeah, I think
they did come through for 3. Denley on 14, Burns on 13. England 27 for no loss.
Let me do some tweets. Linux Leah, Rashid Khan just became the 3rd player to take 10 wickets and make a 50 in a match as captain. The other ones, I did see this before. Imran Khan and Alan Border. Who knew Alan Border took 10 wickets
well,
in a match?
quite, yeah.
In the Sydney Test of 1986, 7, is that right?
The answer to that question was Ed.
Yep.
Knew that.
Yeah, well, we tweeted it ourselves from the Guerrilla Cricket account as that fantastic test match in Chattogram wound its way to a conclusion. Yeah.
Can I just keep on with these? Yeah, Aidan says Denley selection is a symptom of ECB not watching county cricket. He got in and did okay, but none of the England camp have any idea who to replace him with, so he stays. Well, I really think that should be delegated.
Cummins in. Oh, how on earth has that not bowled him? It's come in sharply from Pat Cummins. A little bit of extra bounce as well, perhaps, which means that it did strike him on the back thigh pad rather than careening through and taking the top and middle stump as it might have done on some other pitches in this series. I think Tim Payne has decided that having seen that there is some bounce in this wicket not to review, but an absolute jaffer again from Pat Cummins. Movement in the air and off the pitch.
Just done a little bit too much, but absolutely done Joe Denley there. Messi Jez rises from the chair to tell people how to get your own jingle. It's Give Us Money. I've retweeted that.
Correct.
Leeds Sheep Wiggy. Morning gang, what are the odds of this game lasting to Monday? My son wants to know whether to buy a ticket for the last day. Depends how much you're being charged.
Yeah, I bought 4 day 5 tickets for Lords for £20 each, no refunds, and it turned out to be, according to my friends who I had to give the tickets to because I wasn't there, the best 20 quid I've ever spent, as they told me.
Cummins in, again, significant movement into the right-hander Joe Denley, but starting too straight. Beating Denley for pace, who hasn't been able to get forward or back at any point in this innings. He's kind of trapped on the crease by Cummins, Hazelwood and Siddle. It thuds into the thigh pad. There is no room. I've seen this LBW shout again, and Kumar Dharmasena was quite right in his summation that it was going over the top of the stumps.
Rob Sutton, morning all, tuned in from the office today. Look forward to joining you all one last time. If the England players are shattered after a high pressure summer, what about us? Well, it's probably worse for the players, to be fair.
What a summer of cricket we've had. As Cummins in, full outside off stump, edged
out.
And the fourth time of asking, caught. Stephen Smith to his left, had a juggle, had another jungle, eventually clung on, and Joe Denley's torturous innings is over. Denley gone for 14, England 27 for 1. Through the hands initially, bounced off the chest, then bounced off the hands another couple of times before he eventually clung on. He's relieved Stephen Smith. Joe Denley pushing with firmish hands at a ball that wasn't really there to drive. It was neither a drive nor a defensive shot. Again caught on the crease, and Pat Cummins has given him a proper working over.
Yeah, I have to say, Pat Cummins had him on a string, effectively, like a puppet master, moving him from left to right. And that wicket was as coming as any wicket I've seen in this series.
Yeah, it's quite funny from Steve Smith, though. I think that went hands, chest, hands, chest, hands. So catch up with some tweets while we got that wicket. Max C says, well done in the series, Gorillas. Understand we Aussies are annoying when we win, but guess what? So are you when you win. Big part of the Ashes tradition. I think there's a difference to be made here. Fans, sure, on each side are annoying. Officially, did England pull out huge inflatable hands showing the score after they won a series? We didn't do things like that, mate. Tim Douglas says, hi guys, who would you put in your top 10 umpires of all time? Haven't really thought about that one.
Need more time.
Yeah. Ravi Nair, morning Ravi. He says, I don't believe there could be anything such as a fat knackle, so we should instantly start calling him Plumpy Pandey. How do you feel about that one?
I've got a little bit of a tire, but in classic Indian tradition, all of my weight's in the same place.
Yes.
England's number 3, England's captain walks out to the middle somewhat later than he has done at most points in this series.
His voice is high-pitched and ginger hair like a pick, but massive runs he has hit, so there's that.
Introduce yourself.
Joe Root.
Introduce yourself.
Joe Root.
Introduce yourself.
Joe Root, actually.
The figures of Joe Denley's in his 14 are for 26 with 2 boundaries.
And it's another wicket for Pat Cummins, who's had a great summer.
He has indeed, the number 1 bowler in the world. Got Joe Root for a golden duck in the second innings at Old Trafford. Cummins into Root. Root plays this one with far more solidity and certainty than either Denley or Burns have managed at any point in this innings. Clips up to mid-on, there is no run. Joe Root becoming the first England captain to score 3 ducks in the series.
Messi Jez, welcome Andy Knackle and Ed. How appropriate that Siddle comes on just at the same time as me, and maybe James Anderson soon as well. Did you see he was considering going vegan? Good
Yes,
move.
indeed. Virat Kohli has already done so.
Yep. Matt Searle, if past performance is anything to go by, Root should make a century this innings now. The series is dead. Currently 3-1 to be innings top scorer. Just on that note, if you had backed Smith to be Australia's innings top scorer, Cummins comes in.
Yeah, he's in, 5th ball of the over, a full delivery, which is nicely played by Joe Root, playing it with the in-swing, clipped into the leg side. Josh Hazelwood slides round to his right at mid-on to field. Root's off the mark with a single.
Yeah, if you had backed Smith every innings, you would have won 5 and got your money back on the other 3, because either he didn't play or he was injured. Every time he's batted, he's been their top scorer. A couple of nice comments on YouTube. Dave on YouTube, hi Gorillas, I've enjoyed turning down the Aussie TV coverage and listening to you this series. Keep up the great work. Ian EB says the actual losers of this series will be the umpires. Rick comes back and says, sorry Ian, the actual losers of the Ashes are England. Well, not yet actually, they could draw.
They could indeed draw, but the bilateral series trophy, the over-coveted urn, will symbolically be going back to Australia because, of course, it is kept under lock and key in the MCC Museum. Much like the Elgin Marbles, as Pat Cummins comes in, last ball of the over, round the wicket to Rory Burns. The short leg is in place, but he doesn't go short. He goes a little bit fuller, and that's very nicely played by Rory Burns. He does like playing through mid-on. He doesn't really try to put any power into the shot, just nudges it through the vacant mid-on region. Hazelwood comes round to field. They come through 4-2. Burns on 15. Root, who'll be on strike, is on 1. England 30 for 1.
Linux Leah says Denley's control percent is 63. Can he make a more disgusting century than Rory Burns? 2 minutes later, that aged well. Messi Jez, watching Mitch Marsh take off to chase that drive was a bit like watching a 10-ton truck trying to take off at the lights.
Yeah, I was going to say, Mitch Marsh has always been a pretty solid mover, a solid individual, but my God, he's looking more solid. I will say there's a lot of him.
Now, it was never the problem. His strength. Was it?
Strength is his strength.
Yes.
Evil Scooter, Steve Smith improving himself, almost human shock. Messi Jez and England opener nicks off for bugger all. Colour me surprise. E.S. Blofeld, Esquire. Steve Smith's a great cricketer, but boys, he had some luck this series. You make your own.
Well.
A couple of people agreeing with me, Annette Flevel and Dave Sarah, both anti those 17-18 Ashes inflatable hands.
Yeah, that was a particularly... It's not
triumphalist.
It's not just that it was triumphalist in classes, it was just a bit crap.
Yes, yeah. And as I say, there's a difference in officially doing that and what fans say, because fans will say stuff.
Siddle in short outside off stump. As the sun breaks through the clouds at the Oval, Root plays this off the back foot into the cover point or backward point region. Nathan Lyon fields, and there is no run. Seeing that Joe Root has been targeted on his stumps throughout this series. He does love to cut, he loves to push off the back foot, but he can be a bit of an LBW candidate. He hangs deep in the crease.
Hazelwood in particular early on.
Yes, indeed. Getting the ball to move both ways, and he's got a couple of absolute jaffers from Cummins and Hazelwood. He's batting a little bit outside of his crease as Siddle comes in from the Vauxhall end, outside off stump, which is an area that Root quite likes. And he plays this from the crease, just angles the face down into the fourth slip region. In field, there is no run. Root seems to have a lot more time than either Burns or Denley seems to have done.
Could it be that he's a better player?
Well, sure, but Burns and Denley have done good things at times in this series. Certainly, Rory Burns has batted well. I don't agree with Fred's very harsh criticisms of Joe Denley. I think he's done all right, and he's looked solid enough at the crease. But
would you agree, irrespective of your rating of Joe Denley's ability?
Short outside off stump, and lovely shot by Joe Root. Waited for it and got that trademark late cutaway between backward point and gully down to the boundary for 4.
Good God, yeah.
All I was simply going to say is whether or not you think Denley's done okay, and I'll probably be in between you and not Fred, which is a place no one ever wants to be. But without a 50 at least in the second innings, I'd suggest his Test career is probably done.
Well, you don't look too much into one. He's done what a string of openers have done. He's averaged 25, and when you're averaging 25, it will be hit and miss.
Yeah, I mean, he's stuck around for a while, which is more than some have, particularly Roy.
But it's not good enough, in objective terms.
Siddle in, outside off stump, and beats Joe Root. Root drawn to play at this one well outside the line of off stump, but he did keep the bat more or less under his eye line and didn't quite follow it with his hands as some have done, so the little bit of movement took it past the outside edge without interfering with the wood through to Tim Payne. There is no run.
Of course, there are two separate questions, whether it's objectively up to standard or whether it's the best available.
Well, yeah, who are you judging things against that? I think that...
Well, because it's certainly not the first, is it? Really?
Well, I think that, no. You look at back, the Adam Lythes of this world were probably a little bit harsh because they were still being judged against Strauss.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that at all.
Siddle in fifth ball of the over. A little bit of movement the other way this time into Joe Root, who plays this very solidly into the offside. There is no run. Look, there's no denying that Joe Root's a class above Denley and Burns. A class above those guys. Was probably in the Fab Four. Top 4 batsmen in the world until probably recently, and Peter Siddle's a little bit slower than Hazelwood and Cummins as well, so that's got to be factored in. But I think it is very noticeable just how much more comfortable he's looked.
Yeah, and I think with Joe Denley you also have to add a third point to what Andy was saying.
Last ball to Siddle's second over, short outside off stump, and again just beautifully caressed, persuaded between backward point and gully for 4.
The number of the day. Who could ask for more? The number of the day is 4.
Well, that's the end of the over, 38 for 1.
I think you were still talking about Denley.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, the third question you have to ask is, he's 34 years old and he averages under 30. Now, you're going to get less time by nature of fact, because your career will be less long even if you're successful.
Less upside to persist.
Right, and so I think it is quite likely that a coach coming in to replace Trevor Bayliss will want to try either Zach Crawley or Dominic Sibley.
Or both.
Or both, yeah.
And Ollie Pope probably has to be in that conversation.
And you have to ask yourself, how good does Joe Denley have to be to maintain his position in the side in any case, even if he was performing quite well?
Well, there's going to be a sitting down and a taking of stock at the end of the series, and with a new coach. And who do you think's favourite for that new coach?
I've not really
role?
seen any names, to be honest.
We've got a bowling change.
We do have a bowling change from the pavilion end. 5 successful overs and a wicket in that last over from Pat Cummins, but he's been replaced by this man.
This is a jingle for Josh. Hazelwood, this is a jingle for Josh Hazelwood.
Yeah, interesting that Cummins has been taken out of the attack after just 5 overs. Maybe he'll be switching to the Vauxhall end.
But yeah, you just have to think of Nick Compton, who you know was averaging significantly higher than Joe Denley and also suffered for not only his style but also probably his age.
Short ball from Hazelwood, well outside off stump. Burns ducks through to the keeper. It goes. There is no run. Yeah, but Compton was messed around the first time, probably the second time as well, because he was.
I'm really thinking about the first time.
He was the first post-Strauss opener, and did well in India, opening with Alistair Cook when England won in India. Then was replaced.
By Joe Root.
Not done badly, replied Joe Root. Then he came back into the team as a number 3 and did well again in South Africa, was criticised by his own coach for reasons I don't quite understand for batting too slowly. And then...
we could do with him now.
Well, and then his game completely just disintegrated. I remember watching on here his last innings against Sri Lanka. As this is a short ball which moves significantly from Hazelwood, an absolute beauty. Had that been 6 inches fuller, it might have taken the edge, but it just beats Rory Burns on the outside edge through to the keeper. There is no run, and it was painful to watch how little confidence and how little certainty there was in Nick Compton's game by the end. And I think there's a few, I think Gary Balance was harshly treated the first time round. Probably he should not have been dropped when Ian Bell should have been dropped first time when Balance was dropped. I think Lyth has done okay. Sam Robson did okay.
I'm going to put Carberry at the top.
Carberry, sure.
Carberry, I think.
Short ball from Hazelwood, but very comfortably played by Rory Burns. It just gets up on his toes and drops this into the leg side, fielded by Wade at short leg. There is no run.
I think Carberry is the one who will feel most aggrieved, as he didn't really have a sustained run of bad form that led him being out the side. Whereas whatever you think of Robson and Lyth, it is the case that they did have a sustained run of poor form.
Well, Carberry got 1 series, which is the toughest series in world cricket.
And he averaged in the 30s, didn't he?
As well as anybody else. Rog McCann, I've just become extremely angry at the Specsavers green bails. Proceed. Lennox Lear, is Australia trying to win me over by selecting Marsh as the chunky all-rounder, but he's no Angelo Matthews.
Fuller delivery, a little bit of outswing, but lovely shot by Rory Burns, who's very, very comfortable through the mid-wicket region. A little bit too straight from Hazelwood, and Burns nudges it away into the mid-wicket region. Mid-on, Pat Cummins has to run back towards the mid-wicket fence to field. They come through 4-3. I don't think Mitch Marsh is chunky in the same way that Angelo Matthews is chunky. There's just a lot of him. It's just a gigantic rectangle.
Yeah, Lennox Lear says, "Whoa, Joe, slow down there, son. It's a red ball, not a white one." He often is a very quick starter in tests, Root. If you give him that ball outside off stump, he'll go for it.
And he's a brilliant strike rotator as well, probably more than most players who bat in the top of the order.
He is, and he's played 2 beautifully controlled late cuts for 4, thus he's on 9 off 8, and without any real... we often say about Joe Root, he can be on 25 before you've noticed.
Mogg says, "Isn't Denley averaging more than all but 2 of the Australians?" Low bar.
Yeah. Well, David Warner's averaging 7.8, I think.
As Hazelwood comes in to Joe Root, who blocks this solidly and firmly back into the oval pitch, fielded on the bounce by Hazelwood. In his follow-through, there is no run. Every batter who isn't Steve Smith is averaging 30. The combined average for everyone else is just about 30 for the series.
Wow, that is an indictment.
And
that's Rory Burns is averaging 40.
No, as in the combined,
about both sides?
The combined average for both sides for every player is just about 30.
I'm surprised it's not lower than that.
I am actually.
Well, that's because of Labuschagne and Burns.
Right.
And Stokes.
And Stokes, yes, that's 2. Well, he's had a few low scores with a brilliant one. Root faces up to Hazelwood, who strays slightly onto the pads of the England captain. Root nudges this into the vacant mid-wicket region. Mitch Marsh lumbers round to field from mid-on. There is an easy single. Root on 10, Burns on 18, England 42 for 1.
Yeah, there were certainly stats going round that were a bit improved in the last one when Payne got runs, about how the Australian top 7, apart from Smith and Labuschagne, were averaging something absolutely chronic.
And that's with Matthew Wade's 100, Edgbaston.
Yes, that's right. Monash SQ on YouTube is asking, who came up with the drawn series goes to the Ashes holder rule? Do you guys know? Just convention, I think.
You've always held the trophy. It's true in the other series as well. You hold the trophy.
Yeah, until someone takes it off you. It's true of all the bilateral series. It's just that the Ashes is fetishised.
King of the court, my friend. King of the court.
Monash also says all openers this year around the world, I assume in tests, averaging under 30. I expect they are.
Yeah, and it was similar last year, 28, which is the lowest since 1932. It's not easy opening the batting anywhere in the world at the moment, as Siddle comes in back of a length. And again, Root just waits for it with seemingly ages to play this one down in now behind square on the offside field. At Gully, though, this time there is no run. And look, the pitches are more bowler-friendly than they have been for a while.
Bowling attacks are certainly better than when I was growing up.
Yeah, there's superb bowlers all over the world. Pretty much every team has got a really good fast bowler or two.
And I would say, as someone who's lived through a batting decade and a bowling decade, it's certainly more interesting to watch the cricket when it's a bowling decade. I find these matches and the matches we've had in this series compared to the sort of batathons we used to have at Lord's in particular in the late noughties, much more entertaining.
Sure, I agree with that. And actually, there hasn't really been a bad test match in England for a while.
No, the last bad one, that India one that ended in a draw.
Root has a flash at this one outside off stump. Not trying to play it late, not trying to play it behind square this time. A handsy waft at a very wide delivery. Clever bowling by Peter Siddle, I think, to try and get Root going at that. And beaten on the top edge, in fact, through to Tim Payne. There is no run.
Ravi does make a counterpoint. He says, I applaud England's selections this series for their consistency. Once the squad was selected, they tried to stick to it. The middle of the Ashes is no time for root and branch change.
I do agree that you should give someone one test too many rather than too few. Because how do you know? As Siddle comes in third ball of the over. This is short and it's pulled by Root. Doesn't quite time it, and so played to the collection of enormous rectangles that is Mitch Marsh at mid-wicket. There is no run. Because what England used to do is they'd give someone two tests, drop them, someone else would fail.
Batsmen in particular.
Yeah, yes. Batsmen and bowlers too, to an extent. This rotating cast of second and third seamers.
There was also a lack of communication and a lack of overall strategy, which I think is better now.
For sure, and people weren't told why they were dropped. They never knew what they had to do to get back into the team. And probably that might still be going on, we don't know. Fourth ball of the over, finally Root gets the middle of the bat on one and times it beautifully, actually, just in front of point, and it's a long chase from the man at Gully, which I think is Marcus Harris, chasing that one out to the boundary, and Root comes back 4-3. No, it was Nathan Lyon who got there first.
We just saw the best of Joe Root there to go with the worst of Joe Root, that waft at the beginning of the over. And that is why he's such a more elegant player than Stephen Smith to watch, but it's why he averages 47 rather than 65.
Yeah, Smith doesn't get bored and do things like that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a beautiful back foot punch, but if that nips away a little bit, you get out caught behind.
Yeah, but he waited for it. He let it do its moving. He played it under his eyes.
No, it's a very good shot, but...
well, if you don't accept me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best, is what they'll say.
That's true, that's true.
Smouty has just sent the students for a break so I can catch up with your coverage. Put us on the big screen. Hello. And Evil Scooters. The more I look at Marsh, the less I'm surprised that he was a highly touted Aussie no-rules prospect.
A little bit of movement from Siddle on the angle, and Burns plays this late, and it squirts through the hands of the man at Gully, resulting in a very long and ultimately futile chase for Stephen Smith. The ball hits the rope, then Smith hits the rope. 4 runs. In fact, that was Marnus Labuschagne who hit the rope at high speed.
It went straight through. Who's that at third slip? Now, get Nathan Lyon, I think.
No, Lyon's at backward point. I think it's Harris.
Yes, just went straight through his hands. Yeah, it is, isn't it? See, right knuckle.
Siddle in last ball of the over. He's not been particularly impressive in this spell by the odd delivery. That's a better delivery. Nathan Lyon shows Marcus Harris how it's done, dives across to his right to field at backward point. There is no run. Burns on 22, Root on 13, England 49 for 1.
England would probably be reasonably happy with
Agreed.
this first out.
Reasonably ecstatic.
In objective terms, anyway. Going back to Evil Scootus' point, I always find it a bit strange that so many. I know they're the two major sports, but cricket and Aussie rules are about two of the most divergent sports you could imagine.
But they don't overlap in terms of season, so you can play both at the same time for a while.
But they're very, very different sports.
Sure, they are. They're completely. But you can play.
No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
People did used to play cricket and baseball. Used to be a very common combination.
Yeah, Ian Chappell was a very good baseball
player. So much
player.
more common ground, though.
Mm-hmm. No, Shane Warne was a decent Aussie rules player in his youth.
Who told you that?
The spice of life, Andy.
Shane Warne.
Well, he wasn't quite good enough or big enough to make it as an Aussie rules player. Hazelwood continuing from the pavilion end. A little bit of movement, squares up Root a tad, and it comes off the outside part of the bat to cover. There is no run.
What I enjoy about Shane Warne as a pundit is every series he looks completely different, and it's so exciting to think where he's going to go next. His hair's changed colour, I think, 3 times since about 2013. It used to be properly ginger, now we're back to brown.
Is he on a second midlife crisis?
Oh, I think he's just...
third?
His whole life is a midlife crisis,
I think you're right, yeah. An entire life crisis.
Yeah. I will say, though, you were saying it's a disappointing start for Australia and a good one for England.
As Hazelwood's in, lovely delivery, which is very nicely played by Joe Root. It was a full delivery with just a little hint of away swing, but Root waited for it and blocked it very solidly off the middle of the bat back to the bowler. There is no run.
It looks a poor decision to win the toss and field first from Tim Payne, because we've seen a little... No, well, I know you say early doors, but we've seen a little bit of movement. That's what we've seen. And Australia have bowled pretty well. And yet England are 49 for 1.
They've been lucky.
Yes. They have been a bit lucky, but I do not think this is a bowl first wicket.
I think they were playing on England's insecurities.
No, absolutely.
As Hazelwood's in, third ball of the over is back of a length, and this one doesn't move away, goes in with the angle that Hazelwood's bowling from sort of mid-crease from over the wicket. Root defends off the back foot to short leg. There is no run.
But as you were saying, Knuckle, they've scored at a reasonable clip as well. I mean, they're 49 for 1 after what? Under an hour, just under an hour's play.
Quite a few off the edge.
Yeah, they all count though.
They do.
Yeah, I mean, it could go a little bit like the England-Australia group game in the World Cup, where England were a bit unlucky, I think, not to get a wicket.
Bowled a little bit too short there as well, like Australia.
Tiny bit, yeah.
No, very unlucky.
Six inches too short, but then Australia were able to score very quickly. Hazelwood in back of a length, and Root, as he often does, gives the impression that it keeps a little bit low because he hangs on the back foot. He's quite a tall man, very upright, and sort of jabs this to Nathan Lyon at backward point. There is no run.
I think we're due a change at the end of this over, aren't we?
It is 12 o'clock. We will be due a change at the end of the over. I don't know what that change will be.
Yep.
I don't get paid by the minute.
No. Mog says just ask Glenn Maxwell about the quality of communication from selectors. Kiwi Kelly says rumour has it that AFL was developed for cricket players to stay fit during the winter.
Yes, that's something you always hear. I don't know if that's true, though.
That's a very...
cricket-centric way of looking at it.
I was going to say, it's a very punishing way of getting them fit. It's a particularly boot campish style of fitness coaching. This one from Hazelwood, if anything, comes in off the seam a little bit, but Root defends with bat and pad very close together into the offside. There is no run. I think Australia have brought in another sort of short, straight catching cover, which is a position they used very well at Old Trafford to cut off those runs into the offside.
Chris Waller asked thoughts on why Aussies would pick Siddle over Stark Pattinson and then bowl first. I might leave that for our successors. And Leah says, such a shame that Warne never made it in Aussie rules. Would have been the perfect player, no brain to damage.
One of the finest thinking bowlers the game has ever seen, but there we go. Full delivery from Hazelwood, and Root has a half drive at it off the thick inside edge. It thuds into the pad and rolls away into the slip cord, and there is no run, but a much better over from Josh Hazelwood than anything we've seen for the last little while. A maiden, in fact, from Josh Hazelwood, but England will be reasonably happy with their half morning's work. They are 49 for 1. The only wicket to fall, Joe Denley caught behind caught behind rather. Caught that second slip on the fourth time of asking by Stephen Smith off Pat Cummins. Got a proper working over. He went for 14. Root is on 13. Rory Burns is on 22.
And it's drinks, Knackle.
It is indeed.
So
well,
rattle through a few tweets, Andy, and then I've got.
I'm actually up with tweets. So
oh, excellent. Well,
I would say about Shane Warne that you should always follow the Shane Warne flow chart. Is Shane Warne talking about spin? Yes, listen to him. No, don't.
Yeah.
You can have a cricket brain, but not a real brain.
Well, quite, yeah. And actually, going further than that, he is unmissable at times talking about spin bowling and how spin bowlers construct their spells and what fields you should set for spin
and
bowlers.
Unlistenable.
And unlistenable everything else, precisely.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true.
I was actually listening to, I must admit to my traitorous and treasonous nature, I got a deal to watch a week of Sky Sports on Now TV for £3 so I could watch the last test.
Oh,
so
bargain.
I was listening to a lot of the comms, and I'm sure we've been through this before, but it's amazing how, well, we're quite diverse here, but to be fair, they're diverse in terms of good and bad. Like Atherton and Holding.
In terms of quality.
Atherton and Holding could be on and be really enjoyable and insightful, and then
Botham and Warne.
Botham, Warne and Lloyd, any combination of them is virtually
sure, and there's a lot of very good analysis that happens on Sky. They have the ability to go through old clips and pick out changes in a player's technique in
I think
in a
particularly
stance or a run-up.
Since they've started working with CricViz as well, they've just been some really good statistical analysis on the...
Yeah, for sure. Some of it's a little bit stats for stats' sake. That's going to happen, but...
Right, it's like any new toy, right? You overuse it.
And I'm sure there's some contractual thing about how many stats they've got to get in at any point.
Yeah. The John Motson rule. It's just as many as possible.
Pirate Badshaw, Siddle's waiting for a weapon crate to drop, at which point the dreaded banana bomb will be deployed. Obviously you know worms, I didn't know worms. Mog says, I think you'll find rumours of Shane Warne being anything other than a shit kicker in low grade AFL, to be greatly exaggerated. Rumoured to have met his wife in a van out the back of the ground though, not Liz Hurley I would imagine. And Brian 001, hello from Central Milton Keynes Shops Grown. How the hell did Mitchell Marsh get yet another recall? What
question.
hold does he got on the Australian selectors?
Well, the talk coming out of the Australian camp is that they liked how he was bowling in the tour games that they've played. They say he looked in good rhythm. They say he's fitter than he ever has been, and that they wanted an extra potential bowling option with the workload that the four-seamers have had through the series.
Well, why take Mitchell Stark out, as I said in the green room?
Well, Brian is more saying poor old Usman dropped again despite scoring many more runs than Warner. I think I've almost scored more runs than Warner in this series.
I hear news, I hear noise, I wonder if...
Warner's got a record to back him, to keep him in the team for a while. I did wonder if we were going to have a change of bowling. I was wondering if Cummins was going to switch ends, but no. From the Vauxhall end, it is the gigantic collection of rectangles.
Right, well, I'm going to put this man's jingle on, and then I'm going to step out if I can find it. Here it is. See you in a bit.
He's not Jeff, he's not Sean, he's not Rod, he's not Daniel, he's not Jack, he's not Jamie, he's not Lisa, he's not Paul, he's not Adrian, he's not Andrew, he's not CJ, he's not Christian, he's not Dean, he's not Eric, he's not Edward, he's not John, he's not James, he's not Laura, he's not Paul, he's not Reginald, he's not Steve, he's not Bill, he's not Amelia, he's not Terry, he's not Brendan, he's not Churchill, he's not Sean.
Mitchell Marsh is into the attack and starts with an in-swinging Yorker, actually, or an in-swinging half volley anyway, which Burns does get his bat down on, plays it into the ground and out towards cover. We've had a changeover for the first time today. Sitting to my right, it's the Bear.
Good afternoon, peeps. Crack the first beer of the day.
And Knackle's still here, and he'll be reading your tweets.
I will indeed. Roger Melly says, speaking of baseball, Bradman's Invincibles played an exhibition match of baseball once while on tour. Stan McCabe hit everything out of the park. Said it was easy, everything was a full toss.
Nice. Mitchell Marsh bowls. Again, that good line. Outside the left-handers off stump, just slightly shaping towards him, but it started a bit too wide. 49 for 1 England. The man to fall, Denley, who eventually got an outside edge, which was eventually held by Steve Smith, Mr. Inevitable, as his jingle calls him.
He got a proper working over from Pat Cummins and ended up just pushing at a ball that was nowhere near drivable.
Yeah, he's not really convinced. I think I've made my views
Yes,
on Mr. Denley.
I was going to come
clear.
back to your selection theories.
As Mitchell Marsh bowls again, shape into Burns, well defended by the Surrey opener.
I'm not too far from your thinking, Fred. Actually, what are you doing? You can't answer me now. I thought all along that Denley was an odd pick for the Test team. Don't know why he carried on. Although, in fairness, he's done better than Roy. And
pretty low bar.
It's a pretty low bar, but considering what else is going on in the team, maybe he's as culpable as anyone else, and you can't put the blame on him. Roy was never a Test player.
As Marsh bowls again, Burns tucks into the leg side, past the forward square leg, walks a single. England's 50 is up, 50 for 1. They've been, I would guess, how many times have they passed 50 in this series for just one down?
There was
not too many.
2 maybe.
Second innings at Edgbaston. And we've had a couple of decent. In fact, Burns and Root have put on, I think, England's 2 big, or certainly 2 of England's 3 biggest partnerships of the series, both over 100. 3.
Has he been batting 3 the whole series?
Who? Apart from
there've been
the
night
night
watchmen.
watchmen.
Interesting. I assume you discussed it. Leach, having made 92 as a night watchman against Ireland, was probably relieved of that position in the last Test match and replaced by Overton.
Leach was deemed worthy of being protecting.
As Marsh in, and this again is an outswinger, which to the right hand is Root, but he watches it onto the middle of the bat and takes a pretty quick single. It went quite close to cover, but there was no shy at the stumps. 1 ball left of the 14th over, 51 for 1.
There's 2 sort of cynical / humorous answers. One is that Jack Leach was suddenly deemed worth protecting. The second,
at number 11.
The second is that Craig Overton was more expendable.
Yeah. Well,
and he did Overton's all right as a, actually, if you choose a night watchman,
he didn't do well as a night watchman. He did bat with
in the second innings.
Great courage and guts in the second
innings. Well, he got
innings.
through the night. He did get out quite early the next morning.
Marsh to Burns, defended, end of the over, 14 gone, 51 for 1. Let's hear from the Twitter sphere.
Linux there says, Warren's like a bit like Dr. Ben Carson and neurosurgery in that regard, in that unmissable on one thing, unlistenable on everything else. Linux there says, at least Bumble's entertaining in contrast to Botham. Dave Sarasara says, Warren is one of the finest player thinkers, had some brilliant plans that were relatively simple. But I remember him once discussing on air the benefits of a fridge to keep the beer warm.
What? Who?
Warren.
Yeah.
Scott Bryant says, Warney's hair will eventually end up like Crichton's from Red Dwarf. Pirate Bardshire attaches a tweet from Alan Gardner. Highest opening partnership for the England summer remains Will Porterfield and James McCollum's 32 for Ireland in the first innings at Lord's.
Really? That is...
Well, the highest partnership any of the tests.
Of the English Test summer.
Correct.
That's
all opening.
England or Ireland or Australia.
Correct.
Wow. That's pretty poor opening.
Well, it's been difficult all over the world. We were having those stats earlier that openers around the world are averaging 30 this year and 28 last year. It's not easy.
Well, no, there's some good bowling attacks around the world.
There are, and some helpful pitches.
Yeah, some helpful pitches, useful balls, and people who are going hard at the ball.
Hazelwood is bowling, Root is batting, and it's turned towards square leg. The square leg is standing about 10 yards in front of the umpire. Not actually in front of the umpire, it's more towards mid-wicket rather than very square. I used to like fielding at square leg because you had somebody to chat to. You could have a little
I never liked talking. No, I never liked talking to the umpire.
Well, there's something to do.
Yeah. I was once offered a mint by a square leg umpire.
Yeah, no, I've been offered a bit of chewing gum.
Useful in the days of ball tampering.
Well, he was, you say the days of, as though it's ever stopped.
Especially in club cricket, Jesus.
He was bored and the opposition were winning too easily.
I used to pick the seam all the time in club cricket.
Josh Hazelwood bowls.
Whoa,
a ball which pitched outside off stump, was left by Root, and then after it passed the stumps, absolutely jagged down towards fine leg. And Payne took it very, very well in one glove.
Payne's had an odd series with the gloves because he's generally been very solid and he has a good base technique as a wicketkeeper. But every now and again, his feet just don't move at all, and he just jabs handsily at a ball and drops a very simple one.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Well, times when your legs don't work. But most of us aren't international wicketkeepers. Josh Hazelwood with a bit of a crew cut. It's very short on the sides. Bowling to Joe Root, and again he's forward, not a big stride forward, but he nudges this out to point where there is a fielder. It's another dot ball. The Australian caps seem to wear very quickly Or maybe they're pre-stressed, like those jeans that you buy that look
faded
like they're 20
jeans.
years
I will
old.
say this: they do seem to show salt marks and sweat marks very easily.
Yeah, I think that's.
Is it
more what
sweat
is.
or is it worn away?
No. It's salt, I think.
It's salt and the sweat.
Right.
But you do see some. You also see some fraying around the brim.
Mitch Marsh's was very
Maybe
faded.
they get
Spent a lot of hours
passed
in the sun.
down.
I don't think so.
And you get a replica when you retire.
Hazelwood bowls on the leg stump, sweetly timed by Root to the wide of the man at long leg. And they're going to come back 4-2. I think that was Marsh down there. And Root is now on 16, 53 for 1.
He's looked very solid when he's been allowed to play square of the wicket, Joe Root.
Who was it a couple of years ago who cut off his boundary shot by putting out a deep point almost instantly?
South Africa at Trent Bridge. And it sort of worked.
It did tie him down because all batsmen like scoring boundaries, especially
he then tried
attacking
to.
batsmen.
Well, they took him out of cover. He then tried to drive through cover and nicked off.
Yeah, it's good thinking. Often field placings are about where you don't put the fielders. As this is a shorter ball from Hazelwood. Root goes on the back foot defence to mid-on. If you leave gaps,
there should never be a gap at mid-wicket, though.
Well, unless people who try and turn straight balls to mid-wicket are looking for that gap and then get leading edges. So sometimes, as I say, when you don't put a fielder, it's an attacking
It hasn't
move.
worked to Steve Smith because Steve Smith has an unbelievable ability to not fail to middle the ball, if that makes any sense.
Well, see, my theory, you know what my theory is. I think you pack the leg side and you bowl out the stumps.
I just don't think he's going to miss enough to make it
No, I don't
worth
think
it
he's going to
early
miss
on.
enough, but it's going to force him to hopefully score
Hazelwood
somewhere
bowls.
else.
Root tries to cut, under edges it, and goes on the bounce to Gully, and that's the end of the 15th over, 53 for 1.
Let's talk about how to get Steve Smith out when he's actually batting. TV umpire says, I read that Australia wanted Mitch Marsh to gain the sort of fitness that Stokes had. Perhaps they thought the last test was in Bristol. Brendan Stanton says, thanks for fantastic commentary. Knowledgeable, informative and funny. You've been on holiday with me to Malaga and Paris. Lucky us.
Knowledgeable, informative and funny. That's the three of us.
3 of the 7 dwarves. Mog says, because I could throw, I was always exiled to the boundary, which is fine by me. I don't like talking to people anyway. Also, Night's Watchman, as a plural.
Night's Watchman, absolutely. If you the first time you play for a club and you wang one in from 70 yards, you'll get put on the boundary for the rest of your career.
Doomed.
So just lob one in and make it bounce 4 times.
And then hold your shoulder and go,
Yeah, and then you'll be in the infield and you'll get to slip pretty quickly. First ball of a new over from Marsh is well down the leg side. Burns thought about glancing, but it was too wide even for that.
I was very rarely slip fielder. I was a slip fielder at school once and dropped, I think, 3 catches off our opening bowler in one match. He was
never
not
asked to
happy.
do it
I was
again.
never asked to do it
Did
again.
you not drop a fairly simple catch in the last Denley?
Yeah, that wasn't even a slip catch. That went miles up in the air, and I managed to fumble that one. But then I caught an absolute screamer off my own bowling, so that's all right.
Oh, that's right. It was
your own bowling.
Oh, that's right. It was Steve Busfield who dropped a sitter off Louis Bishop, I think.
No, it was me who dropped it off Louis Bishop.
Oh, okay.
Marsh bowls again. He's getting some shape in towards the right-hander, but it's turned towards mid-wicket for a single. Steve Busfield is the only fielder I've ever seen who refused to move from slip for the left-hander to slip to the right-hander because it was too far.
And thus we had a leg slip.
So he stayed at leg slip. Yeah.
On YouTube, Emmanuel Anthony says, what's the name of the commentator in the middle?
I'm known as Fred, at Fred Titmus on Twitter. You can follow me for a while and then block me when you see what I tweeted.
And if that's a previous comment, the previous commentator in the middle was me, Knuckle Impande.
And the Hoff Bear is at the moment sitting on the extreme right-hand side as you look. Or is it left-hand side? I always get those mixed up. As Root drops this into the offside, comes through for a quick single. Steve Smith fields and then collides with his short point fielder.
It's stage left.
Stage left, indeed.
Or screen left,
55 for 1.
Brody Graham asks, what are the team changes for Australia? 2 changes. Mitchell Marsh has come in for Travis Head and Peter Siddle has come in for Mitchell Stark.
And there's been a lot of spoken about the England team this summer, and much of it reflecting on various disappointments, but I think it's fair to say that Rory Burns has cemented his place as a competent test opener, and the fact that
competent,
we've competent, yes.
Yeah.
He's not, he's not looked outstanding.
No, exactly. He's competent at his job, though.
He's done good. This is a very full and wide delivery from Marsh outside the off stump, and Burns thought momentarily about playing but didn't.
There is swing both ways for Mitchell Marsh, but it's all, well, I say it looked gentle, but apparently that was 89 miles an hour. I doubt that.
It was only because it's a full ball.
So he can definitely be construed as a success for England this summer, a selectorial success. There have been few and far between. He actually looks like, he's there for keeps at the top of the order. But he's not scoring buckets of runs, but he's doing well enough. An in-swinger again. And it's driven, I thought it wasn't particularly well timed off the inside half of the bat, but Burns got enough of it. It's gone out to deep mid-on, and it's into the boundary.
It's Nissan Shi.
2, 3, 4.
It's Nissan Shi.
28 now to Burns, 59 for 1. Let's have a look at the replay again. No, it was most of the middle of the bat, although the bat did turn marginally in his hand as he played it. Greetings to you. Greetings to our Crick Tracker viewers and our YouTube viewers and our Facebook Live viewers.
Indeed, and I was going to read a thing from YouTube Monash SQ. I think that makes what Smith has done on some of these wickets outstanding. I think talking about the amount of movement that there has been.
Marsh bowls again, and Burns defends.
And also, I saw an interesting analysis of Don Bradman's career. They broke it down to 2 pitch types, a road and a sticky wicket, and they said that he had an average of 20 on sticky wickets, having batted on them 15 times. Those pitches were famously basically impossible to bat on.
Well, in the days before the 70s, cricket was played on uncovered wickets. In other words, they were covered before the start of the match and then left open to the elements for the rest of the match. So if there was a downpour, they would cover the areas around it so that the bowlers' run-ups and the fielders, the close-in fielders, wouldn't be slipping around as though they were on an ice rink, but the wicket was absolutely treacherous. This is why particularly spin bowlers made the ball do ludicrous things. And
what would happen if an indentation was in a wet pitch, it would then be set as a hole when the pitch dried, a little bit like in cement, and it would become, bowlers like Derek Underwood would suddenly have massive rough to bowl at. Absolutely,
a change of bowling, and Pat Cummins is coming back into the attack. And Australia, having put England in, will be, fair to say, a little bit disappointed they've only got 1 wicket in these first 16 overs. The first ball to Root is well outside the off stump, and he lifts his bat high.
Let's have a jingle for him.
Paceman Pat, and his baggy green cap. Early in the morning, just before the warm-up, he has to pull out with a dodgy back.
Pit Rick Cameron!
Returning from the pavilion end, having bowled before this 5 pretty successful overs and having taken a wicket at the over before he was taken off. I understand wanting to have a look at Siddle and Marsh, but it seemed a slightly odd decision.
Well, for the first time in the series, Australia have got 5 frontline bowlers. They've managed pretty well without them, as the next ball is... Root tried to drop it into the offside, but he probably timed it a little bit better than he hoped. It went straight to point, no run.
If they were going to make a change in that order, it was Wade or Head, wasn't it? And actually Wade didn't do too bad in the last test, got a few runs.
Of course, he's got 100 in the series.
He did, and he's stuck around with Steve Smith a couple of times.
Exactly, and I think that's where I think Head started the series a little bit better, but Wade has made the case for him being in the side.
And let's remember that Labuschagne wasn't in the test team at the start, and he only came in because Smith got struck on the head.
Well, he's made himself undroppable.
He has, but he certainly was not in the selectors' thinking as being playing in the top order in the first game. This is what had happened. It was a bit of a Baltimore chop. It went down in the ground and bounced over the head of Gully. Got a hand to it, but pushed it behind him, and they come through for a single, 60 for 1.
It's good to see you can still do that at the Oval. I mean, that was off the main wicket, the wicket they're playing on. It used to be the case, and even times this year and last year, you can cut the ball hard into the practice wickets at the Oval and bounce it over point. Because and it kind of squares all the way along.
It is
out to the boundary on both sides.
What I was going to say is I was reading some interesting things about the stats for this series were the England without Smith, and considering he's only played 4 tests as well, this is his 4th test. England averaged 1 more with the bat per wicket than with Smith. He's got 30%. Yeah, he's taken 30% of their runs. And wickets wise, there's not a lot in it either, to be honest.
Well, sure, I mean, obviously Anderson missing is a big deal, but...
that's a massive deal.
As Cummins bowls short outside the off-stump, Burns ducks, but it probably wouldn't have threatened his person anyway. Anderson, yes, obviously he's a big miss for England. I think more of a problem was that the fact that he started that first game and then couldn't continue after 3
England
overs
had 3
or 4
bowlers,
overs.
Or 3.5 bowlers.
3.5, yeah. So that was the major problem. Had Anderson missed that test match by not playing at the start, then
we
it could have been very different.
Archer would have played.
Yeah.
You know, it reminds me a little bit when India toured in 2011. Zahir Khan played the first Test match.
Oh yeah, and they were doing all
bowled
right,
brilliantly in his first spell, then broke down and was out of the rest of the Test. And India had 3 bowlers.
Yep. Which is why teams need to go with 5 bowlers, which Australia hadn't do. This one's shorter and outside the off stump. Burns withdraws the bat.
I mean, the irony of that is, of course, England do have an extra bowler with Stokes, but it still didn't. They still found themselves light.
Someone else broke down, didn't they, in the first Test? He got an injury in his arm.
Well, Wokes didn't bowl in the second innings, and it was never satisfactorily explained why that was. Or he did bowl some, but he went pretty much a whole day without bowling, and people were going, what the hell's wrong with
He bowled
Stokes?
a spell with a new ball in the second innings, and then basically didn't bowl for the rest of the innings.
And Moen was bowling shit.
Which was weird, because as we said, Anderson was in the team, but not fit to bowl. Cummins round the wicket to the left-handed Burns, a little bit wider of the stumps, and it's guided down towards Gully and the end of the 17th over, 60 for 1.
So who are you taking to New Zealand, and who are you?
Oh God knows.
Can we go through some tweets while you think about that?
Yeah.
Ken Crichton says, "Love your work makes a horrific commute home in Jakarta bearable," which he's spelled B-A-R-E-able. Ian Shaw says, "Unfortunately, as one of the 3 players in the team bringing the average age under 50, there isn't a lot that could be done to avoid getting sent somewhere where you're going to have to throw long because of the associated running requirements." Yes, I've been there. Remember playing in a team, I think Bronsbury Fours. I was 22 when I was the second oldest player in the team.
Ouch.
Matt Searle says, we're not talking about this boycott and honours thing. That's just opening a can of worms, which is too tedious to debate, I think.
I don't know, you can have a point of view.
No thoughts. My thoughts are thoroughly unsuitable, and the honours system is wildly outdated.
Peter
I don't
Siddle
think he should have got it, but
is bowling from the Vauxhall. I don't think he should have got it on cricketing grounds.
Which is good.
Which I can expand on. Root has pulled away very late. Siddle was virtually into his bowling action when Root pulled away, but this new elite honesty and smiling Aussies, he just didn't grimace, he didn't say anything, he just laughed, had a little chuckle to himself, turned round Siddle and walked back to his mark.
And said, we're 2-1 up in the series.
Indeed. We're going to.
Cricket is a team game.
It is indeed.
And that's why I'm always a little bit suspicious of individual honours in a team game, but I don't think boycott's done enough on cricketing grounds to merit a senior award. This is on leg stump, and it's hit the pad, going down leg side.
I think you got an inside edge on that.
A little bit of a stifled appeal from Siddle. Let's have a look again. You're probably right, judging by their body language. No, he didn't.
It's going clearly down leg.
It was going down leg side, but not by a huge amount.
Fair enough.
Root was defeated by it. Siddle has none for 18, which is, for him,
quite expensive.
Not the most. Is not as economical as he's been.
It's been a little bit too short and a little bit both sides of the wicket, particularly to Root. He's kind of fed his cut shot a little bit.
It can take a while sometimes for bowlers to find the ideal length on a wicket. This is short again, and Root has found a gap in the offside square of the wicket. He's not timed it well enough to get a boundary, but he should get 3.
Yeah,
he does get 3, which will take him into the 20s, and England up to 63.
Can't think it'll be too long before we see Nathan Lyon.
No, and the funny thing was, after the first Test match, everyone was going, well, Lyon, look at Lyon, he's nailed on to be the leading wicket taker in the series, and look how well he's bowling, and he's barely taken a wicket since.
Yeah, I think he's bowled well and has complemented the 3 seamers well, but yeah,
as an attacking option, he's
his wickets have dried up a bit.
All right, we should say that the GPL is open, of course.
Yes.
They started off with 30 quid this morning. We've got 16 entries already. You've got 35 minutes to enter. I'll give you the names who are in. Messi Jez last time when he won 151 quid last week on the last.
Put it all back in, Jez.
Put it all back in.
Siddle bowls and Burns defends.
He has 273, 283. Oscar Mack has 289, 293 is Messi Jez, 303 is Messi Jez. Yoel R has 305, 306, 307, 308, 309. Different strategy, like it. 313 Messi Jez, 323 Messi Jez, 333 Messi Jez, 343 Messi Jez, 353 Messi Jez, and 363 Messi Jez. Listeners, if you're wondering, don't go on a 3, or you have to share the pot with Messi Jez.
He's got a lot of entries there, Messi Jez.
Well, he's feeling lucky after his win last week.
The second biggest win in GPL history.
It might not have been the second biggest win. I think we've had a few up in the hunt.
And he's won a few. Siddle bowls a fuller ball, and Burns plays it into the leg side with the angle. It goes straight to mid-on, no run.
Niall Richardson says, enjoying the commentary while enduring the world's worst, shittiest traffic in Makati, Manila. 1.5 hours to go 11 kilometres. You help reduce personal road rage.
We've had Jakarta, Manila. We're working
1.5
our way through
hours
Asia.
to go how far?
11 kilometres.
Well, that's not as bad as the one time. One time I was in Kenya. Generally, rush hour would take 2.5 hours to go, probably 2 kilometres.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's fucking mayhem.
You could walk it backwards.
Well,
quicker.
exactly.
This is a shorter ball from Root. Burns tries to turn it into the leg side, but takes it on the body somewhere.
The first time I went there, they didn't really have traffic lights. Next time they went at traffic lights, but the traffic lights aren't on any sort of. They've done no sort of road management system where they've, so literally it's one light for 20 seconds, the next light for 20 seconds. There's no light, and all the roundabouts have traffic lights, but there aren't many traffic lights anywhere else in Nairobi. So it's a bit kind of like. Everything comes out to these main roads that are just chocker.
I think the worst traffic I've experienced in any city is Bangalore, where there's been a construction project to try and get a metro built.
Cyril Bowles, but Burns defends.
And it's basically just made the roads in the centre of the city far too small for the number of cars that are there. Delhi's traffic is, there's a lot of cars on the road and it's a bit chaotic, but the traffic does flow and it does move. But Bangalore just has these horrible snarls, and you get these traffic jams which are unpredictable, and you can be stuck for 3 hours just completely without warning.
Send us your traffic tales from around the world. I'm sure there's a podcast in it. 63 for 1 off 18 overs.
A few comments on Crick Tracker. Khalil Ahmed Jut says the commentator is seated as if dead. Not sure who that was about, actually. Mohammed Shariful Islam says Australia will win. Saman Chakraborty says Australia will lose. And Oman Khan, Mansoor Taj, and Razak Khan or all this. And Ari Ashik says Australia should have batted first.
I've just taken my pulse. Apparently, I'm still alive.
Well, I do think it's interesting.
Which will cheer some of you.
England, this will be the first time in a while England had the chance to put the pressure on Australia. In fact, was it the first time in the series?
Cummins bowls. Root doesn't really move his feet, but middles the ball to mid-off, no run.
Joe Taylor points out actually quite correctly on our own Facebook feed at facebook.com/Guerrilla Cricket that our scorecard only shows how many runs England have scored, not how many wickets they've lost.
It's probably a good thing, actually, for most of the summer.
We do see Nathan Lyon warming up.
That's something I can send over to if someone brings in my phone, or reminds me in a minute.
Well, there's going to be a changeover shortly. So
Marcos Mexicano says, "Who's the guy that looks like Michael Moore?"
Me.
Do
I look like Michael Moore?
Cummins bowls. This is through Root. That was a quicker ball. It came back into him. He was rooted to the crease. He didn't move his feet at all. It went back between bat and pad, and Payne took it well down the leg side. Cut him in half, I think, is the
expression.
The usual expression. Not quite sure what that means, but it was through him, and it was pretty rapid.
Cummins has done that a couple of times. Got the ball to move in sharply off the seam. He hit Joe Denley with one that that was Hazelwood, I think, actually. Marais Erasmus gave out a rare wrong decision, and a couple of times Cummins got the ball to come in sharply and have Denley groping for one.
Well, a lot of people have had Denley groping for things. As this goes it doesn't go the other way, but it passes the outside edge of Root's bat. Again, not much foot movement. He's never taken a big stride when he bats, but he's been beaten on the inside edge and then beaten on the outside edge.
Yeah, he sort of gave the impression that he withdrew the bat, but I think it was after the ball had passed the edge.
Yeah, his feet go nowhere.
He's not even going back, really, is he?
No. He's doing nothing, but there you go.
He's got a technique. It's all his own.
Dave Zarasara says, boycott Geoffrey Boycott. He's the English Roy Keane.
Yeah, I'm not sure that knighthoods
well, I don't believe in
makes
knighthoods
sense
anyway. Yeah, exactly.
for sports people. As this is well down the leg side by Cummins, and it's beautifully taken by Payne. He got the feet right that time and took a ball that was heading for what looked like 4 byes and plucked it out of the air.
Messi Jez says, to be fair, I did leave 50 quid of my winnings for you guys to spend at the Woodhouse.
You did.
Did he?
Which we've not yet spent.
No,
I've just seen the replay of that, and actually Payne didn't take it cleanly. So he did the right bit.
And again, he's slightly lunging. I mean, it's a good lunge, but
he had a long way to go there.
One of his feet isn't really moving. It's not the classical sort of skip across technique.
No, the Australians seem to have badges on their collars of their shirts. It's sort of a round golden disc. I don't even know what that is. It's outside edge or square driven by Root. I'm not sure that it was entirely where he intended to play it. It's going out towards the boundary. It will be stopped by Gary Lyon. Wangs it back in, and they're going to come back for 3. So that's the second 3 in a couple of overs.
I'll get us up to date with comments.
66 for 1. We're going to have a changeover at the end of this over, which is one more ball.
Yeah, and sorry, before we
he did drive it very well.
Clear some comments on guerrillacricket.facebook.com/guerrillacricket. Robert Van Royen says, "Good morning, chap. It's your ever faithful South African listener in Sweden. As always, looking forward to the cricket and your banter." O'Neill Harris says, "A lot of batsmen that were discarded before now look so good that now only Jason Roy and Joe Denley are the options, or rather, look so good now that Jason Roy and Joe Denley are the options."
Yeah, well, the grass is always greener.
We talked about the long parade of England's discarded openers. Adrian Lowe says, "Here with you guys. Going to watch this one. Going to watch you this one," which doesn't quite make any sense. "Thanks so much for everything you've done during this Ashes summer, not just the Ashes summer."
Last ball of the over, and my spell is a short ball which Burns plays well down into the ground past the short leg fielder, and he's thinking about 2 as the long leg has a long way to come in towards the edge of where a circle would be in a one-day game. They take 2 runs. The end of the 19th over, 68 for 1. We're going to play you some music, and then you'll have some new people on mic.
Yep, you owe us all right. You think this alternative cricket commentary stuff comes cheap? Well, we need some dollar bills to help pay our bills, so please go to patreon.com/guerrillacricket and sign up to make a regular monthly donation. You know there is literally nothing like Guerrilla Cricket's coverage, so don't be tight. Dip into your virtual pocket and throw some cash our way. See, Rihanna knows. Patreon.com/guerrillacricket.
Pay me what you want it.
Who do you think we should get to ask for money more than Rihanna?
Is there anyone more than Rihanna?
Well, that's my point. Yeah, who can we get? Who would make you part with your money?
Grace Jones. Siddle comes in, top of off stump, plays it out into the offside, and there's no run. I am Andy Ward, joined on my left on the tweets by Ed.
Ed!
Yeah, I'm back, and I cannot wait for Andy to tell that joke he told in the green room, which was the funniest joke I have ever heard.
No pressure. And on my right, on the wheels of steel, it's DJ Hendo.
Steel. It describes my... I was going to say my legs, but it doesn't really. They're not steel-like.
Are you not still in a continual funk from AFC Wimbledon losing to MK Dons the other week?
Oh, don't tip him over the edge, Andy.
Here comes Siddle, full on leg stump, and Root tips it round the corner. He's going to get at least 1. Payne is after it. Root wanted 2, Burns wasn't so sure. They just 1 leg by.
Mohammed Majid's with us. He says, Cricket Australia picks Mitchell Marsh, bowls a few overs, still shit, change the bowling, drop Nesh, get next game. #Ashes.
Yeah, I mean, you can't argue against Mitchell Marsh. He got a big 180, didn't he, in the last Ashes in Australia? I mean, he's a decent cricketer. He gets a bit of a bad rap, doesn't he?
Well,
does he get a bad rap because of his brother?
I don't know.
Just too many Marshes.
Yeah, all the Mitches and the Marshes, and he's the Mitch Marsh.
It's like the fucking Lake District out there.
I was going to say, or the wetlands. It's the wetlands.
I get my coat.
There's such a thing as trying too hard, Ed.
Yes.
Siddle round the wicket to Burns, flaps his bat on down. It's hit on the pad. Siddle likes it. Smith
Too
likes
high.
it. Erasmus does not, after a rare mistake from him earlier in the innings when he gave Joe Denley out, and a ball that none of us in the green room thought was close to being out.
God, you put some effort in, Hendo, and you just complain. Now, what do you want? What do you want?
Well, we should let our listeners in on this subject, really, because we need to know: are you not entertained?
Are you not entertained? On a serious note, there's a balance between telling you what's going on in the cricket and diverting into other things. Sometimes we're too far one way, sometimes we're too far the other. Let us know what you think. Siddle's in, full of ball off the inside edge of Burns' bat, but he's gone down to long leg. He's going to pick up 2, I'm sure. He will go on to 32.
On the subject of entertainment, there's a discussion about where the worst traffic in the world is. So Kiwi Cali says worst traffic don't laugh. Worst traffic Kathmandu. They've sadly never recovered from the earthquake. Dave Sarah says my dad just came back from Kenya and the traffic is apparently getting much worse, if that's possible. Is there a correlation between traffic and cricket performance?
Well, actually, the Bear should be able to tell you about Kenya. He spends quite a lot of time in Kenya because his wife's Kenyan. So, and I do remember him saying bad things about the driving in Kenya, whether the actual traffic itself.
It tends to be one every man for himself in the colonies, doesn't it?
The colonies?
Siddle is in and Burns covers up to extra cover for no run. Is that Knackle clumping down the corridor to
colonies?
Tell me not to say the colonies.
Mog says, Fred's still alive. Damn it, I just lost a bet.
You'd be in your Deadpool.
Poor old Fred. Poor old Fred. We're missing one Fred today. Well, this test actually, we've only got one Fred this test.
We've got not Fred.
We're down on the Freds, which is very disappointing, really.
Ravi Nair says they've increased the traffic fines in Delhi tenfold to cut down illegal driving.
Is it working? Siddle comes in. So wide ball, a big flash from Burns, which has not been like him this morning. He's down on one knee, flashing way outside off stump. Luckily for him, he missed it.
Apparently, General Drag says, lads coming from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and I think a quick YouTube search will prove to you that every time you drive in this country, you are risking your life. Think India, but at 140 kilometres per hour.
What? 140 k's? What's that in miles an hour?
It's only through cricket that I can make that comparison. I think it's just over 85. And I tell you, if it wasn't for cricket and bowlers, I wouldn't know that. What were you saying there, Ed?
Nothing. And Chris Waller says, congratulations on a long, successful summer. Will there be an end-of-year party next week? Chris Waller.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, there probably should be at some stage. Whether it'll be next week, I'm not sure.
Sadly, no white ball cricket following this test series. Or perhaps some would say we've had our fill this summer.
Sadly.
I think sadly, yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, the worst thing about the New Zealand tour that I am absolutely dreading is the 5 T20s.
Oh my, 5?
And no ODIs, just 5 T20s and then 2 tests.
Why can we never have 3 of each? Anyway, Cummins is back in over the wicket to Root, who plays and misses. Perfect shape, but the ball wasn't where he thought it was going to be, and it flashes past for no run.
Linux Leah sent us an article about the special touch added to Ashes shirts, but I wasn't privy to that conversation. So
there's something about a gold circle, which might be the sign of the Illuminati, or on the Australian shirts, just to show how.
Oh well, that's why they've retained the Ashes, obviously, isn't it?
The backing of the Illuminati.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, goodness me.
Message S says Hendo's on the wheels of steel. Did he nick David Steele's motor?
David Steele, that's going back a bit. Man with the worst collars in political
David
history.
Steele's, I thought you meant the batsman.
Oh, sorry.
I think you probably did. It's in the air, it's Siddle has dropped it. He's let down vegans everywhere by dropping that catch down at long leg. It was a hook from Joe Root. He did have to make some ground to his right, but it was solidly in both hands, came back out. Pat Cummins is not happy, and that's a dropped catch.
Yeah, that was poor, wasn't it? You just felt, oh goodness me, Root's given it away again. And actually, well, maybe Siddle thought the same thing, and he said, "I want to watch a bit. I want to watch a bit more of Root, so I'm going to put this down."
Oh, he didn't have to make up that much ground actually, and it's just flopped out of his hands and out of his reach.
It's pretty regulation. I'm trying to think of a pun with carnivore and can't, but I'm not. I'm struggling, listeners. Help me. Carnivore. No, you're right. That was a mistake. Adrian Lowe says, "Don't change anything. Entertaining and cricket focus. Keep doing what you're doing."
Thank you.
Okay. Is there anyone you'd like us to get rid of?
No, tweets come flooding. Flooding in.
Hendo, why did you do this to me? Couldn't you have waited till after lunch?
I just thought it'd be fun. I thought it'd be entertaining. But there you go. Maybe
Guerrilla Cricket Civil War, the sequel.
Let's have a reality show.
Civil wars are the thing of the moment, aren't they?
First, a short legs in for Burns, and it is a short ball, ducks underneath it. Tim Payne takes it over his head. 72 for 1, Burns on 32 and Root on 25.
PJ Mead says, "Afternoon Gorillas, I'm listening from north of the river," and he's got a picture from Lords for us. And Now Zhu says, "Incoming," whatever that means. I wonder if that's about your request of who to get rid of on the Gorilla bench.
Possibly, yes.
And Monash SQ says, "Lion bowled poorly in the second innings last test. I thought he should have been rested. He was bowling way too straight. They said he had a dicky finger held together with glue." Yeah, he cut it, didn't he? Bowling spin.
Seemed to have, didn't
well,
he? Yeah.
do they have a second spinner in the squad?
Well, Labuschagne bowled okay.
Well, Labuschagne probably got the crucial wicket getting rid of Jack Leach, didn't he, the other day?
He's very fill-in for me.
Yeah.
And Adrian Lowe's watching us as well as tweeting us.
And Burns is the latest to play an unsuccessful leave as it ball bounces off his bat and goes down to gully. We've seen a few batsmen get out that way this year, not least David Warner.
We are terrible. Well, in fact, I think cricketers in general are getting very poor at the leave.
Well, it's a better one than the one that crashes into the stumps, but it's still not great.
No. Now, I'm curious because I can't find a jingle for the dropped catch. Now, where would that have been?
Drop it like it's hot. Where's that gone?
Yeah, I don't know where
selected in play.
In play?
Oh, there it is.
Meta.
Nice dub version there.
Better late than never.
Coming twice to make up for it. Cummins is in full. Burns clips into the leg side, goes past the umpire. I don't think there's anyone out there, but it's slowing up, so someone's going to get there. Yes. Number 10. Who's number 10? Pele. But it's not Pele, it's one of the fielders.
Pele.
Max C. Andy has taken on your distinction between objective and relative. He says, yes, entertain gorillas. It is a relative game and you match up well against the competition. More diverse topics, opinions, vocabulary and moods.
Also a low bar.
Yeah, true.
Mog says, hello, Ed Sheeran. You like cricket, right? You'd love Gorilla Cricket then. Donate some money to them because they're awesome. Rihanna will if you do.
Ed Sheeran, maybe we get Ed Sheeran. Well, he's been on Test Match Special recently, hasn't he? We can't. I'm not sure we can get. He's tainted, yeah. We don't deal with that. Once they've been on, they're ruined. They're dead to us, basically.
But Rihanna, if you're listening,
Rihanna,
come on in.
different.
Cummins is in again to complete the over. Root lets it go. A little bit of swing after it passes the bat. That's the end of the over. 75 for 1. Happy days for England.
Scott Bryant says, I imagine the thing you dread most about touring New Zealand is the fact you have to go to New Zealand. Absolutely wrong, Scott. It's a lovely place. Sean T says, 2 foxes asleep in the neighbour's garden at GC Towers. What? I don't know who Sean T is. Is he?
Oh, sorry, that's Nestle Boy.
Oh, Nestle, you changed your name. You've given away your real name.
Well, yeah, it has been known to a few.
Doxed.
Yeah, a few people have heard.
So a couple of foxes asleep with the statue of a pig that I often think is a real pig.
You do. You just look out there and you see it and think, oh my God, what's the pig doing in the garden?
Loose in the garden.
And it's not Steve Smith.
Kiwi Callie says the logo on the Australian shirts is a nod to Aboriginal culture.
Oh,
okay. Good.
Oh, that's lovely.
And Adrian Lowe suggests instead of getting rid of someone from Gorilla Cricket, we get rid of Smith for a change.
Well, dearly, Sean Stroke Nestle Boy just showing us a little picture of the foxes, which I'm sure he'll put on the Twitter feed.
Ravi... sorry, Nestles. Ravi Nair says, since he's vegan, we can't call Peter Siddle Butterfingers. So is it palm oil fingers or maybe Peter Hay Diddle Siddle?
Yes, exactly. Vegetable spread fingers. Siddle is in again, and that's a thick inside edge from Burnsy. I don't know, if you had a heat map of his bat, there would be a lot of marks around the edge.
Yeah, I'm just going back to that vegan thing. I'm trying to think whether it was it an interview with Jimmy Anderson I was reading yesterday. He was talking about he talked to his wife about becoming vegan.
He was considering it. He was sizing up the options. I'd say go for it, Jimmy.
And to keep himself fit for the next 5 years of his career, if it goes that far.
There's a film coming out next week. It's only going to be out quite limited release called The Game Changers, and I've seen some trailers and whatnot of it, and it's full of successful athletes who are plant-based. Lewis Hamilton, various people. Siddle comes in and dabbed down towards gully by Joe Root, and there's no run, and it looks really quite interesting, and I'm sure I'm going to try and go and see it, but I'm sure it'll pop up on the streaming websites soon enough.
Streaming websites,
your Amazons and your Netflixes.
The worst thing about Amazons and Netflixes is that all the men's tennis has now gone onto Amazon Prime, you stream it on a television. It's bloody awful to watch.
And doesn't it keep breaking up?
Yeah, it's awful, and you just can't get any men's tennis now on normal TV or even on satellite TV.
Well,
it's all been bought up.
It's a free market for you.
Well, I guess if you want to watch it on computer, it's probably okay. But
let the market decide.
Siddle is in a little bit too leg-sidey, and it comes off the pad of Joe Root, and they're going to get what I'm sure will be a leg bye. It is indeed.
Lawrence Jameson is with us on YouTube, and he says, stupid dropping Stark for Siddle. Siddle is not eating his bananas.
Well, maybe he's just had too few bananas already. Maybe, I don't know how many he has to have by lunch.
I think
if he eats something 15 a day,
it's not advised.
How many bananas do you ingest a day, Andy?
It depends. I'll have 4 or 5 pieces of fruit a day. Some days I'll go bananas. Some days I'll go apples.
Ooh.
God, what a life you live.
What a life I do live. I think I read something that Amazon are going to show all the Premier League football on Boxing Day.
Yes. Right.
Siddle's in again. Burns nicely into the gap. Past points left hand. It's Nathan Lyon after it. And they're going to get a comfortable 2.
Rob Sutton says, if there's a correlation between traffic problems and cricket performance, as mentioned earlier, it explains the decline of Leicestershire's fortunes in recent seasons.
Yeah. I've tried to drive around Leicester once or twice.
Does anyone want to say there's actually good traffic in my town? Because we all think it's bad.
Fair point, isn't it? Yeah.
Roger Melly says you guys need a jingle for a drop catch, maybe a bastardization of drop the pilot or something. We have a jingle, Roger, but you're not the only person who suggested that. Dave on YouTube says dropping the drop catch song could be drop the pilot.
Siddle outside off stump, it turns back towards Tim Payne's right hand, but well after it's gone past the stumps. Yeah, I'm going to try and get some new jingles together I've got a few ideas knocking around.
That'd be good. We certainly need a new one for Patrick Cummins, but we probably won't need it for a while. Well, we've got this.
Way up in the sky, little darling. And if it falls, I'll pick it up. Just pick it up, mate.
Has it even got a little Australian?
I think that's more a
accent in there?
bit of a New Zealand twang, isn't it?
Is it? Okay. Well, yeah, possibly.
Siddle, the man who's caused all this conjecture about dropped catch jingles, comes into bowl. Burns plays to square leg. There's no run. Not like me on Sunday. I did that. I hit the ball 2 balls to square leg, called yes, and my partners were run out on each occasion.
You ran 2 people out?
Yes.
At square leg?
Yes.
But you were 51 not out at end of day's play.
I got 72 actually. Thanks.
Did
for
you?
asking.
And when you were you out eventually?
Yes.
Did you?
Huge in-swinger.
Were there some words?
No, they were nice fellas actually. I was playing at a new club.
Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah, you got to stamp your authority.
You got to stamp your authority. Yes. So it was a fun day. Yeah, it was a fun day. No, nice bunch of guys at St Albans. Quite enjoyed my day there.
Matt Searle is with us. He says, who to get rid of? Nobody, though I'd like more Katie for the Latin and name drops and Nestle for the retro jingles.
Well, maybe Katie will come in again on a one-off performance. Who knows?
He says, did Siddle just drop the ashes? Oh.
No. Siddle, Cummins is in rather. Again, it's tails into the wicketkeeper after it goes past the stumps.
Well,
sorry, Andy, didn't see that.
That's fine.
If you want Katie in, I think what you need to do is you need to tweet her directly to tell her to come in, say that she's much missed, and then she'll love you all, and she'll probably sort of flounce her way over here.
I thought you were going to say
flounce.
No,
careful, Hendo.
Yes, very careful. I thought you were going to say set up a trap with like a box over a Latin book and some champagne, and then when she goes for it, then cut the string.
Could do that. Could do that too.
Matt Searle also asked, he says, is all the men's tennis on Amazon? Isn't Wimbledon still on the BBC?
No, I think it's some of the less major ones. Oh, it's an edge! And it's been dropped. Payne has gone in front of Warner. I think that was Warner's catch. Payne is holding his head in his hands. He dived right across, only just got his finger on, and that was almost to the right of David Warner, I think.
And on that basis, I must play this.
This one.
Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot. Drop it like it's hot.
Back of a length, Root fenced at it, right into David Warner's hands, that going, and Tim Payne throws a hand across. And of Australia dispensed with this wide slip theory everyone was banging on about. They look a bit closer together now. And
yeah.
I mean, it was on. Payne got a good glove on that.
But he's snatched it. He's really snatched at it. That wasn't, and it's going straight between David Warner's eyes.
I tell you what, Joe Root's had all the luck today. He's been dropped twice already.
Well, twice in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, you've got to think
you've
got to think he's got to make the most of it. Absolutely.
But also, he might be thinking, could I have done with this, a test or two ago?
Yeah. It's not really something you could complain about, though, being dropped.
Well, when you think about how he got out on the sort of the fourth night at Old Trafford, he did prefer that sort of luck then, wouldn't he?
Kiwi Cali.
Cummins is in, and that's down the leg side of Burns. I think Payne's got it. Yeah, Payne got it. Almost thought he'd let that one go as well for a second.
Kiwi Cali says we've disappeared off tune-in, so I don't know if the Bear could have a little check on that for us. And Chris Waller says, are the vegans who are successful in sport the exception that proves the rule?
No, actually, I think some research has shown that there are actually a higher proportion of vegans among athletes than there are among the general public.
Oh, and Ravi says we're also off the website as well, so Knackle and the Bear to the rescue, please.
Okay, sounds like things need to be done. I think we're still on YouTube, but if you can't hear us, you can't hear me saying that anyway.
Clint Williams has said
Cummins is going to come in wherever you can hear us. Oh, and that seemed to jag away a little bit from Burns. He pulled his bat away, possibly after the ball had gone.
He sent us a gif of someone spraying their coffee in laughter, and he's captioned it with me upon hearing, quote, "Oh, Siddle's dropped it, disappointing vegans everywhere," end quote.
He's going to see that again, actually. He's moved about 5 yards to his left.
Pretty straightforward, Andy.
Yeah, bounced in and out of his hands, yeah.
Were they both off Cummins?
Yes.
Now, this is interesting. I thought the 2 balls he bowled after the second drop were quicker. And that's just anger, isn't it? That's just bloody anger.
You don't want to piss off Pat.
89 and then 91 miles an hour.
It's the anger ball for sure. Let's see if he's still got that going. I think he has, but says 2 full. Lovely shot from Burns. Check drive, skips over the practice wicket. I think it's going to get 4. It is indeed.
What's up, Bear? We're restarting.
We're going to restart on other platforms, but you should still be able to hear us on Facebook and YouTube, and indeed see us.
So people are with us on YouTube. Hugh Maston says, "Are you all leftists and Remainers?" I don't know, Fred. Are we? O Harris says, "Tune in is down." Thanks, O Harris. Lawrence Jameson says he's talking to us about the song "Drop the Pilot."
Yes.
By Aussie Darryl Brathwaite.
I thought it was by Joan Armour Trading.
Oh, I think I misread that. Sorry.
Not sure who was first, as Cummins is in again. Back of a length again, Burns is again on the back foot, plays it down.
Dave on YouTube says Warner would have caught that, in my opinion.
He certainly was better placed to catch it, yes.
And Monash is saying it's starting to look like the test Lily and Marsh backed England to win. Maybe the Aussie boys put money on England.
Oh, it's a decent start, isn't it? I mean, they're almost going at 4 and over, 84 for 1 off 23 overs. But they're going along at a healthy rate. I mean, Root has looked a bit dodgy, hasn't he? He's had a couple of drop catches. That last shot wasn't good, was it? The one that he fenced at outside the off stump. It did move a little bit, but it was a horrible shot, really.
England have shoved everybody up 1. Stokes is at 4, Bairstow 5, Butler 6 and Curran 7.
Well, we have been saying Josh Butler should be batting in the top 6.
Not sure he should be in the team. Sure. Enrage are people of Somerset descent.
Change your bowling.
Nathan Lyon, 9 wickets in the first test at Edgbaston. Slightly slimmer pickings since then.
I think he's bowled quite poorly.
Oh, do you?
Since the first test, yeah.
I think he hasn't got it in terms of wickets. I think he's bowled well enough.
Over the wicket, a slip and a short leg. There's a bit of turn, too short, and Joe Root will feel he's missed out down the leg side there. A bit of a loosener from Lyon.
I'm not saying anything particularly original, as ever, but I thought the last test he bowled too short. And he weirdly was more effective against the right-handers than the left-handers, which is a kind of odd thing for an off-spinner.
I certainly thought that was true later certainly on Sunday, yes.
Here he is trying to gainsay you critics, but Root has plenty of time to knock that down behind. Short third man who's fumbled it. Australia's fielding hasn't been the best today, and that's Cummins, so he can't blame anyone else for that one. 2 drop catches and also a few misfields.
For those people saying that the website and tune in are down, thank you for tweeting in, and we're on it. We're on it. The bear is on it as we speak. Getting the GC supercomputer back.
Supercomputer.
Deep joint, as I believe it's called.
Got to be better than the one in the kitchen.
Deep green. Deep green.
Those ZX81s need to be looked after carefully. As Root plays that one to short leg, and there's no run.
Mog says, I'm going to be a bit quiet on the tweets for a bit, compiling the names and reasons for all the chumps I want excised from your coverage.
You could just say all of us.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
We're back up, lads. We're back up. And ladies.
Back up on TuneIn and the website if that's your platform of choice, as Root plays that one down to backward point and there's no run.
I'm not quite sure about this Root shot. He plays it a lot, both to spinners and to the quicker bowlers. It strikes me as a sort of little brush.
It's his strength and his weakness, as is so often the case. Well, I'm sure the stats gurus are working out what he averages with it. The Lion is a bit fuller and Root again slightly squared up as the ball goes out to cover point rather than down the wicket.
He really has to get 100 now. I know you don't want to heap pressure on someone, but he's had 2 gilt-edged opportunities to be taken, and they haven't been taken, and now he's got to capitalise.
Well, that's how he should be thinking. Line again, short again, and that's a better shot from Root. Puts it not quite in the gap. Cummins pounces on it, and there's no run against. The end of the over, England are 86 for 1, and we'll get 2 more before lunch, maybe.
Ravi Nair's with us and says we're available on Facebook and YouTube, and we are going to be restarted soon on audio platforms. And in fact, we have been. Grits and Grats is with us on YouTube and says for the drop song, I would go with Drop by the Jesus and Mary Chain.
Ooh, don't know that one.
John Mooley Kalita says, what did Starkey do to get dropped here?
Not sure. It's a good question. Siddle's been out for a game or 2, hasn't he?
I certainly think it's odd to bring a 5th bowler in when you're then bringing in, for Mitchell Stark, a more erratic bowler, a line bowler, and Peter Siddle.
Well, actually, also, the other thing is to think that Stark got a 50, didn't he, in his one test that he played. He batted well.
That's probably not going to have much
of
an impact. It's
when you've got Steve Smith on your side, you don't need to worry about runs.
Yeah, but you do whenever everybody else is.
No, that's true, yeah.
Can I also just say that when I was a student, lots of people loved the Jesus and Mary Chain, and they were fucking shit.
Don't start that.
Fuck you, 1980s Cambridge.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I say that many times. Cummings is in again. Short ball, Burns ducks under it, and there's no run.
And Dave on YouTube says, send the opposition in and drop the captain twice. Grand Aussie plan to draw the game and win 2-1.
Well, there's always been talk, hasn't there? Normally when we get to the Oval, England are about 3-0 down against the Australians, or it certainly was in the 90s and the very first 2001 series.
England haven't lost a home series against Australia since 2001.
Yeah,
in
that's
fact,
true.
They've won them all.
That's
and,
true.
And could still stay unbeaten. So I think you're talking 20 years ago. I know many of us like to live 20 years ago or 30.
Well, when you were talking about earlier,
joy that would be.
And he's saying, what they used to do is get 2 tests and be dropped for no reason. Again, that's also the same. That's the 1990s, 25 years ago.
Yeah, Cummins is in and squares up Burns also a little bit out to cover point. I think Sky have stopped showing those cricket in the 80s and 90s. I know they've been showing Ashes in the 80s and 90s. There was a cricket in the 80s and 90s sort of which Mark Butcher was sort of overseeing. That was really, really good. And for those of us fortunate enough not to have been alive and cognizant at that stage, they're well worth a watch. You might be able to find them on the Sky website or something.
But wasn't that the point though, that we always said that Australia, we won that test at the Oval, or we won those tests at the Oval.
Yeah, while they were drunk. That's what they're saying. You said that when they were drunk.
Well, drunk, or they had eased off.
Well, things are more professional these days, for better or worse. It's Cummins again short of a length, and Burns jabs it down to point. There's no run. He's hoping he complete his morning's work. He's on 42 not out.
June Money Kalita said, you didn't get my name right, it's June Money. So sorry, June Money. Get rid of me.
Do you say Money instead of money, or money instead of Money?
I don't know.
Okay. Oh my goodness me! They've got the ICC bowling rankings. They've retrofitted the ICC bowling rankings, which has S Barnes as the highest ever in the ICC bowling rankings, according to the graphic that's just come up on screen. George Lohmann's in there as well.
Well done to him. Cummins is in again. Over the wicket to Burns, covers up, goes to short leg. Matthew Wade flicks it onto the stumps. Obviously bored, hasn't been chatting enough shit. Yes, I'm going to say shit this morning, and obviously felt he had to do something. You hear also, I know I should be listening to Guerrilla Cricket all the time, but I don't have the tech to sync it up. So when I'm watching Sky, and the mics were on for a while, and Matthew Wade,
he does talk
relentless, terrible chat.
What sort of stuff is he?
It's just inane rubbish.
Doesn't make any sense.
Well, can you give me a sort of?
He was apparently he was giving Jofra Archer some shit about how he's not playing for Tasmania anymore. Like anyone gives a
about having moved BBL franchises when, as someone pointed out,
through to Payne and no run.
Matthew Wade has moved BBL franchises, so it's like he's heckling Jofra Archer for doing exactly what he did.
That does
not the
sound
smartest butter knife in the drawer, I think.
I don't know why you feel the need to do that. Is it just something about the culture? You're brought up in that culture, so you just go on doing it.
I think so. You just keep on doing it, and empty can rattles the most, which is why we're here today.
Indeed.
June Money says it's June Monet.
Oh, Monet. How's it spelt?
Keep going.
Is it E-T? Is it M-O-N-E-T?
Monet.
Monet.
Cummins. Comes in. It's over the shoulder of Burns, and there's no run. That's the end of the over. 86 for 1. No,
it's
they've
lunch.
Only got one. Where's lunch? That's a bit early, isn't it?
He was really clean.
Damascena fancies a cup of tea, I think.
We've just clicked one.
He flicked the bells off very quickly indeed, didn't he? So, well, good for him. He's probably hungry, poor chap. What do we make of that morning then? It was pretty decent for England, really.
England's morning, yeah, they're 86 for 1.
Quietly, a very good session for England, I think.
I mean,
having been put into bowl.
Put into bowl?
Sorry. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean. And
you can prove anything with facts, can't you?
Yeah.
Burns has been solid. Root less so, but he's got away with a couple of chances. So, as we've said, he's got to go on and make them pay, as they say.
I'll just rattle us up to date with our tweets and YouTube stuff before we head off for lunch. So Wahid Akhtar says Australia will win the match because they have Smith and Cummins. Both are fantastic. They'll help Aussie win the match. Best of luck, Australia. Luke says cricketers that played Australian rules at league level: Keith Miller, Vic Richardson, who is Ian Chappell's grandfather, Mick Malone, Jeff Marsh, Simon O'Donnell, Max Walker, Graham Wood, Shane Warne, under 19s but not league. Grits and Grat says you can tell Stephen Hawking in the middle chair, I'm no J&M Chain fan either, but worthy of a jingle.
I do kind of hunch in my chair. I think that's. I've been watching myself back, and I do hunch. I should take up more. I should be more like this.
I didn't know where that was going until I got to the end.
It's a little bit harsh, I think.
It is perhaps a little. Very. Of course, I'd love to be intellectually as renowned as Stephen Hawking.
Lawrence Jameson says Payne drop was Wade level and stop rooting Cummins overs, whatever that means. Peter Lloyd says, to be fair, you're like Matthew Wade is generally a good insult, and after that we are up to date.
Right, we'll be back soon then.
Yeah, we're going to go back to the podcast we did reviewing the World Cup the day after it happened, which we, as I say, we recorded the morning after the night before, or possibly the afternoon after the night before. An absolutely extraordinary concatenation of circumstances resulting in that World Cup win, and a really good tournament actually, despite the absurd format. And I was here, Grubby was here, and Hendo was here, and so we convened to talk about the tournament as a whole. As you can tell, I am filling because I'm trying to get this steam-powered computer to play ball, and we'll have that for you very shortly. England will be quietly happy with their morning's work at 86-1. Only the loss of Joe Denley, who got a proper working over from Pat Cummins. A little bit of luck, a little bit of half leaves that resulted in some runs, but the inevitable happened, and Pat Cummins got a good delivery to Denley to force him to play a really poor shot, and the ball was eventually held by Stephen Smith at the fourth attempt. The catching has not been good for Australia. They've dropped two very simple catches. Joe Root essentially 25 for 2. But that's we'll speculate on that and other matters, and bring you the second session of day 5 of the first of the second session of day 1 of the 5th test, rather. Once the players are back out there in about 35 minutes or so. But until then, have a listen to our Guerrilla Cricket Podcast World Cup review podcast. England win the men's 50 over World Cup by 0 runs twice. 6